Welcome to Chicago Live. It is a beautiful day here in the city of Chicago. Let's take a live look outside at a place where I'm sure a lot of us would rather be right now, maybe out there on the beach, enjoying these fleeting days that we have out here in Chicago in terms of that Chicago summer. Listen, we all want that beautiful crisp fall, but listen, enjoy the final summer days as they happen. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. We have a lot coming your way here on Chicago Live. We're going to be talking in just a couple of minutes about the recently opened Charles Earl School Apartments in Inglewood, 50 affordable supportive housing units. That's coming up in a couple of minutes. We're also going to be talking about the fact that the Treasury is trying a new way to push down borrowing costs, and they're doing that by buying back longer-term Treasury bonds. That's going to be coming up a little bit later in the hour. And this is sort of interesting. We use these things in the business called slugs, and it's kind of just a little title when you're looking at the rundown of the show, just to kind of let you know what's coming up. And there's one coming up at 1:45 that greatly piqued my interest, and it's three words: El Nino sharks, because young great white sharks are actually showing up earlier and in greater numbers along California beaches. That might have to do with El Nino. Obviously, we have had Emily Wall and JD on the show, and they've been talking a lot about sort of this potential, this push of El Nino that's very much affecting our area right now. But in terms of stories affecting people, a lot of people are very much still deeply impacted by the loss of the great legend herself, Dolly Parton. Across both sides of the aisle, people are, all walks of life. Unfortunately, when people pass, there are a lot of situations where someone inevitably has something negative to say about them. It feels like with Dolly, collectively as a society, it feels like we've all sort of agreed that she was great, and she made the world better, and she made the world a better place, and the world is just a little bit of a lesser place without her in it. And we're seeing that love not just around the world, but especially right here at home. In fact, a growing memorial, it's actually outside a Dolly Parton mural in Edgewater, in Chicago's Edgewater neighborhood. It's actually giving fans a place to grieve the country music icon, someone that really meant a lot to a lot of people. We are going to bring in Michelle Lytle, who was a very big part of this Dolly Parton mural. Michelle, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you. First of all, do me a favor. I just kind of want to start out with a very sort of human question. It stands to reason that Dolly meant a lot to you. You're a big part of this mural. How are you doing? For people for whom this meant a lot, I just wanted to have a human moment where I just ask if you're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. I mean, I found out yesterday, probably around 1 p.m. On my group sibling chat that she had passed, and I almost immediately drove downtown. We used to live above the Lytle house, so we know all the neighbors there, and everyone always kept an eye on Dolly when we weren't there. So I met up with some of them, and I was there probably till around 8 p.m. And to be honest, to see all the people coming through, I said to my wife, I'm like, I could have stayed here all night. People were showing up for Dolly that you never would have pegged as Dolly Parton fans. The diversity of the people coming to the mural, taking time out of their busy days, which I think is the most amazing thing because everyone's so busy, stopping, buying flowers, dropping those off. One man brought a ton of candles for everyone to light. So it was a really beautiful moment. And I think that really helped a lot for me because that is really what Dolly Parton was all about. So to be able to be there in the community with everyone showing up and paying the respects, it helps a lot.
Were you initially the one who commissioned the mural? Is that your relationship with it?
So I actually painted the mural myself back in 2017.
Can you talk to me about what that process was like. And you know, she is someone, and we've been talking about this, and you know this as well. It's been hard to summarize everything that she was, whether it was the you know, putting millions of books in the hands of children, or the you know, taking her life from Tennessee and crafting it into some of the greatest songs of all time. Her work in film, I'm a film nut, so her work in film always meant a lot to me. How do you take this you know, legend, this behemoth of a person, and summarize it into sort of a singular image?
I mean, I think that that's sort of what's interesting. Those are all the things that we know about. And there's so much that Dolly Parton did that she didn't even tell anyone about, that she did behind the scenes. And some of those stories are starting to come out, but I don't think we'll ever really know the breadth of everything that Dolly Parton has contributed. So, you know, I think this space, the Lytle House, like I said, it was our home for a long time. I had my photography studio downstairs. You know, we host small weddings on the weekends. So when we got this space, it was nothing. We put everything we had into it, created this epic secret garden behind that tall fence, but it left us with this big blank space. And I always knew from the beginning that I wanted to put a Dolly Parton mural up, and my wife didn't get it. And then as soon as we got that first round of graffiti on that nice clear space, I won that argument. I went out late at night. I used a projector, projected the image, traced it, came back the next morning, and it took me about a day to finally put her up there. But since we've had her up there, people really tend to respect Dolly. We haven't had any trouble with it. In fact, we've had to turn off the notifications on that security camera because every hour since 2017, people stop in front of that fence and take photos with Dolly Parton. It was really, I know my wife didn't get it at the time, but people who get it really get it. And I think that that's been really fun. Having 3 kids, being able to talk to them about who Dolly Parton was, you know, I related to, you know, she's Miley Cyrus's godmother, like stuff like that, which they had no idea. Wrote I Will Always Love You, which people always attribute to Whitney Houston. So she really has had such an incredible life, and she really kind of is involved in all areas that people had no sense of that. So it was an easy decision for me. I knew the person that I wanted to put on the fence that would be timeless, and who I personally loved. And being in the Edgewater community, you know, with all of the gay population out there, I knew that they would love it too. So,
Michelle, you've mentioned, you know, at the time that your wife didn't get it. Is it fair to say that she gets it now?
Oh, she's gotten it over the past, you know, almost 11 years now. Every tour I give at the place, someone comments on the Dolly mural. We get multiple inquiries, and they find us because of the Dolly mural. People on our Instagram, we're having people tag us, and we're resharing all these photos of the mural. And so many people are like, we got married here because of Dolly.
Wow.
Our first dance was a Dolly song. So almost at every single celebration we have at that space, people are coming outside in front of the mural to take that photo. So it's, you know, being married is all about reminding your spouse things that they were wrong about. So that's top of my list every time we have that conversation.
Listen, I know, you know, for many of us, it was kind of hard to imagine a world that Dolly wouldn't be a part of. I know when you crafted this thing, you know, I'd imagine you never thought it was going to be a place that people went to after she passed. But what does it mean to you that for a lot of people who kind of need that ground zero in regards to Dolly right now, that it kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of accidentally became that?
I mean, it means a lot. Like I said, I was there all yesterday, and I love talking to people. So I talked to almost every single person who came through at the mural. And then at certain times, there were too many people to talk to. So I totally understand. And for me too, there's a feeling being in a community like that with people, and everyone's just good. And they made time out of their lives to be there, to mourn her. You know, people were saying prayers. This one man, you know, because of his health issues, could barely kneel down to put something in front of the mural. And just seeing people come together to celebrate a person who, you know, like you said earlier, no, I've never heard anyone say something bad about Dolly. My middle child asked today, why is it such a big deal? And I'm like, no one hated her. And I think that that's like very unusual this day and age, to have someone be universally loved.
You know, I'm just kind of, I like hearing about your children sort of asking questions, because, you know, what I'm thinking about right now is that today there's a whole younger generation out there who maybe was not aware of who she is, but now they're starting to ask. And you know, I'm a big believer that, you know, people pass away twice. They pass away when they physically pass away, and then they pass away when people stop talking about them. No one's ever going to stop talking about Dolly Parton. We will continue to watch, Steel Magnolias. We will continue to listen to 9 to 5, and in that way. So I love that you know, your children, a lot of people's children today, are asking questions about her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's bizarre, and this is right, we spoke to a lot of people about yesterday. It's bizarre that she has passed, but I think she's someone who's almost never really going to go away, because she has touched so many different areas of the world, of entertainment, of, you know, her book program, everything, even, you know, Tennessee. So I don't think her star is never going to fade. I mean, I honestly feel that about her.
I mean, you are clearly such a big fan, and so I love that you've sort of given this back to everybody who really needs this right now. We've been kind of hitting the greatest hits and talking about her for the last, at this 24 hours by this point. Is there a deep cut, whether it be in her music or in her film work, where you're like, listen, I get that you're all talking about 9 to 5, you're all talking about Jolene, you're all talking about I Will Always Love You, but is there something you're like, you guys got to go deeper and listen to this one?
For sure. Hard Candy Christmas, #1 jam. We always make up.
You had that ready to go.
We always make up. That's my sister's favorite song, and we serenade her once we've had enough to drink. But Straight Talk, a lot of people don't know about Straight Talk. That's filmed in Chicago. That's incredible. Kentucky Gambler, an awesome song. More Where That Came From. That was a Target commercial a decade ago. But she has so many hits beyond the 9 to 5s, the I Will Always Love Yous. And the fact that she wrote them is super impressive. 9 to 5 she wrote on her fingernails. So you got to, if you start looking into Dolly.
She wrote 9 to, what do you mean she wrote that on her
She used her acrylic nails to do the beat for 9 to 5 when she was on set. And actually, her acrylic nails are credited, I believe, on the recording.
Come on.
Yeah. And there's a video of her talking about it. But, I mean, she's so incredibly talented. When, you know, years ago when people were like, oh, why'd you put Dolly Parton in your friends? You know, for people who didn't know. But when you start researching Dolly Parton, you'll be amazed at how many areas she has touched and how many things she's been behind. She turned down Elvis Presley. She wouldn't sell him I Will Always Love You because he only bought the full rights to all the songs, and she wouldn't do that. And she paid $1 million out to Porter Wagner. I mean, at a time where $1 million was insane. She did that, and then she recovered her entire career from it. So she really is just this incredible force, and I really recommend everyone kind of looking into her history, because you'll learn so many things that you had no idea.
Well, I'd heard this story one time, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Someone asked her one time about the Whitney Houston cover of I Will Always Love You becoming, obviously, you know, with the Bodyguard and everything, and
right.
the sensation that it was. And the question, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it felt a little bit like, hey, how do you feel that version kind of became big? It felt a little bit like a setup to maybe a dig.
Oh, yeah.
And her answer was brilliant. It was basically along the lines of, listen, I made so much money off of Whitney's cover and then was able to give it back to local schools in the community. So I am beyond thrilled. The fact that she took what was set up to be sort of this combative kind of, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
And it was about, no, you know, championing another artist, another woman, and then saying, and then that person's success allowed me to do good for other people. Like that, to me, that singular moment, if I had to, like, you know, like to someone who'd never heard of her before, put one moment in front of them and say, this is who she was, that's near the top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely. And her behavior was always like that. She was a very positive person. She was never competing. She was always trying to boost everyone up. And I think that's another thing that's just amazing. She's just honestly an amazing person. And people, they have no idea. They know the I Will Always Love You. They know the 9 to 5. But when you really get into it, you'll be amazed by how much this woman has done. And given back to where she came from. I mean, a lot of her family worked for her. She incorporated them into her career. Like, she's just an incredible person. And I think her message was always just about the good in the world. And you know, again, being at that mural last night, it's if anyone needs a reminder that humanity is not awful, go to the mural, because I know people are still there right now. Go to the mural tonight, because the people you will meet and the outpouring there, it's really incredible. And I haven't been able to stop talking about it since I got home last night.
Well, I wanted to ask you, for people that are maybe just now learning about the mural, I know we were out there, I believe, a little bit earlier this morning. It stands to reason, hopefully it's going to be there for the foreseeable future?
I think it'll be there forever. I did a poll on Instagram early this year. I was going to touch her up, and everyone, everyone said to let her age naturally. So she's still up there. She's going to be up there. Down the line, she might get a little touch up. I've repainted her probably 3 times now. But no, she's going to be there for as long as we have that property. She's going to be there 100%. She deserves to be there. It's how we're known. It's a staple in the community. I always had such a hard time repainting her because people would stop me constantly to tell me how much they loved her and what they meant to her. So she's not going anywhere. She's going to be there forever.
I know we've talked a lot about the people that were out there over these last 24 hours, and I know that you had the chance to talk to a lot of people, and I'd imagine way more people that were out there than you could talk to every single one of them. Was there one story you heard, or one thing that you heard from someone that made you pause and go, wow? I mean, I feel like for you to have this new perspective has to be amazing.
This guy showed me on his phone, he pulled up on his phone a photo of him as a little boy. He was maybe 7 years old. And this was an older gentleman. The photo, you could barely, it was almost no detail. But 7-year-old boy, and he was carrying this Dolly Parton Barbie. And he's like, I carried this thing around forever when I was a little kid. And so seeing him show up, have that image ready to go, that was one story that really stuck out. Of course, there are people crying, and strangers would come up to them. And I knew they were strangers because I saw everyone arrive and hug them. So it's really that's just one story that really stuck out to me. But I probably heard dozens more that night. That was just it's incredible how much of an influence she's made in people's lives.
Michelle, thank you for doing this at a time. I've been saying this a lot over the last 24 hours since I've been covering this here. Sometimes when a celebrity passes, there is inevitably the group of trolls on the internet that want to say, well, you didn't know them. What does it matter? And I always sort of fire back with listen, if their work meant something to you, if their work shaped who you are in any form or fashion, then you did know them. Whether you shook their hand or not, it doesn't matter. So thank you for creating this when you did. Thank you for keeping it going for people and for being kind of a ground zero for comfort right now. We really do appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.
All right, guys, we have much more to come here on Chicago Live. You don't want to go anywhere. A lot of amazing topics that we're going to be talking about just in the coming weeks. So here's what I can tell you is we've got some topics that are coming up. They're going to get a lot of people excited. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. But for now, do me a favor. Take a live look at this beautiful shot. Take a look at that. Over the lake, a little hazy, but we're also going to be talking with, I believe, JD a little bit later in the show to kind of find out exactly what we got going on. So listen, enjoy the weather, enjoy the day. Much more to come here on Chicago Live. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We have so much more to come over the next couple of hours here on the show. We just spoke with an amazing artist who has been able to bring a lot of people together because of a mural that she painted years ago of the late, great Dolly Parton. Something that's in Edgewater that is a source of a lot of comfort to people right now. In the same vein, wildly different, but in the same vein, something else that's going to be of a lot of comfort to a lot of people. Chicago officials have opened the Charles Earl School Apartments in Inglewood, transforming the 1987 school into 50 affordable supporting housing units. It's a nearly $35 million project that includes 50 apartments with 9 deeply affordable units. It's going to be of a lot of help to a lot of people, and we're going to be bringing in someone who can talk with us a little bit about it. We are going to be bringing in Sherry Allen Reeves, the executive director of the Phoenix Foundation. Sherry, first of all, you look fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's be honest. Let's just put it out there. Everyone's thinking it. I'm just letting you know. First of all, can you tell people where this initially all began?
So, to my understanding, which was before my time, this probably started in about 2017, 2014, upon the closing of several schools within Chicagoland, right? So the idea was, what do we do with these empty schools, and how do we transform them into something that is usable for the community as well? And with the partnership of Gorman, Phoenix Foundation and Gorman, we have developed 50 units of affordable housing, some which are tax credits, some which are other funding that provides supportive housing for those individuals. And Phoenix Foundation, in partnership with Gorman's role is to provide the supportive services within the community here in Inglewood. But the initial project, I think did the ribbon cutting somewhere in 2024, and here we are in 2026 having people already moved into those units. It is amazing. And the transformation of those units, oh my God, because it was a historical landmark, or because it is a historical landmark, they were able to keep some of the original fixtures inside the building. So some of the cabinets that had books and stuff like that in it are in the hallways. Some of the door trimmings, because they left those there, are in the hallways. And it is just a beautiful use of traditional stuff, like historical and landmark stuff, as well as new fixtures and modernization. So it's just a really great collaborative effort that they did with the constructions and the developments of those units.
Well, you brought up something that I wanted to ask you about, because I love that they've repurposed this 1897 school into this, and I love to hear, as someone who loves those kind of small details, that they've kept some of those old school touches. I mean, it really does go a long way from like the modern stuff that we're seeing these days. Do you know how they originally came upon that school and looked at that and said, that's a great spot?
Yeah, I don't know how they originally came out. I came aboard in March of 2023 when they were actually in the development stage and getting the funding all tied up. But I do, from what I recall though, right, this was a project that they saw as visionaries, right? That how they can do that and keep some of the same original components in place. I know it was also community driven, right? The community Rage, Teamwork Inglewood, Growing Homes were all in partners, and other people within the community wanted to see some of the things that stayed in the community. They wanted to have this building reflect who the community is and how important this particular school was to the community. So to continue to add that and maintain that was something that I think the community overall had wanted and encouraged.
Sherry, I was reading that the Phoenix Foundation is going to be providing supportive services on site. What sort of services are some of the residents going to have access to?
So overall, let me just backtrack a little bit. So when Phoenix Foundation started this program here, or I got introduced to participating in the development of this was their first project, right? And since then, in September of 2023, we opened a 100 units now, what they call non-congregate emergency shelter in the on the west side of Chicago at the 5300 block at the Crossroads Hotel. So our name of our shelter there is Phoenix Rising at the Crossroads, right? And so since then, we have branched out to provide a myriad of supportive services and all over the southwest side of Chicago. We have 38 units of rapid rehousing, 50 units of permanent supportive housing. We also have a drop-in center located at 3121 West on 71st Street, which is Phoenix Southwest, formerly Southwest Pass, that was started years ago, almost 30 years in history. And we are in partnership there with the Street Samaritans. And so what we provide in all of our programs all around the city, all around the south side of Chicago, we'll be providing additional services there for the residents in that building. And that's access to all types of resources, community events. We are planning financial literacy classes because the ideal or the intent behind what Phoenix Foundation is about, because part of our mission is to end generational homelessness, right? And so what our intent is in that space is to provide resources and opportunities for people not only to live there, but to go beyond there, right? Because this place provides supportive housing. So what would life look like if you no longer needed that level of support to help you manage your day-to-day activities, and you can get out of that process? So we want to be able to have home buyer education, entrepreneur programs, so that people can be able to become vibrant members of the community, where they're landowners, where they're homeowners, where they have an opportunity to add more value to the community that they are already living in.
Did you say that there are people already there, that there are people already calling it home?
Oh, yes, they have. They actually started having people move in as early as July 1st. And there are only about 15 people, or maybe a little bit more, because every day somebody moves in, right? So there are about 15 people already calling that place home. It is affordable rent in the community. I tell you, I've gone all the way to the fourth floor. The view up high is tremendous. Oh my God, it is so beautiful. Just to see the community they have in the space. They have a room for people to exercise room. They have a laundry facility, a community room, a computer lab, playground for the kids, outside a picnic area for families. It is just really a remarkable space. And like, so there's parts of it that is new, and then there's parts that they remain with the historical landmark status of it. So it is just really a phenomenal building.
What kind of community input did you guys receive from, people around that obviously, I'd imagine want to see other people succeed, and I'd imagine, an active working home for people is probably better to look at when you're walking by than maybe an empty school was. So I'd imagine you guys probably got some feedback from people in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know so, right? So Rage, residents of Inglewood, Greater Inglewood, was a major part of this development in the beginning stages, as well as Teamwork Inglewood, as well as Growing Home. So, right, those organizations were really a part of it. So there was a lot of community input. There were a lot of community forums. Alderman Lopez had community forums in his ward, as well as Stephanie Coleman in her ward, because they go back to back a little bit. And so there was just a lot of community input, because again, Inglewood is about family, right? Oftentimes it gets a bad name in the media, but it is really about family. People that have been there for generations, and they love their community, and they love the things that they have in their community, and they want to continue to see it grow and mirror what it did in the past, right? It was the place where people came to shop, to thrive, to live. And so there are amazing homes in that community. And so having something that is repurposed for good. When that school closed, it took something out of them, right? But having this building repurposed for good, that's going to bring resources and other opportunities within this community. Gorman is also developing another facility they call a regenerator, also in Inglewood. So this is an opportunity to start something, like if it's a groundswell of opportunities that are happening in Greater Inglewood.
And Sherry, you were talking about, when the school closed. I was looking through my notes, and the school closed over a decade ago, back in 2014. And what do you think this says about, our city's ability to take a place that was closed, something that maybe to some people was an eyesore that they were tired of looking at, and showing that these places can still hold a purpose, that they can still do some good, and like this place, kind of change people's lives in a lot of ways?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So one of the things that, because I do homeless services, right? So I am the chair of the CLC, the Chicago Continuum of Care. And so I understand the impact of homelessness in our community, right? 77% of the people who are experiencing homelessness oftentimes in Illinois and in Chicago are African American. So having an opportunity to repurpose facilities that are vacant and provide homes for people to live in is crucial, right? We often talk about what we can do to end homelessness. How can we do that? Well, repurposing and getting the financing to repurpose facilities to provide homes for people is a major plan, right? That is something that we can do that is sustainable, that would make a difference in the lives of so many people. I worked over 30 years ago, at an organization on the West Side. It was Bethel New Life at the time, and they were doing family housing. In that building, we had 24 families, but there were over 70 children in that. So the greatest population of those experiencing homelessness are children. And so what would it look like for children to have a space where they can thrive, where they can play, where they had greenery, it was grass all around, and they can go outside and have fun and ride up and down the block? That's what we're creating here in this community, and that's what we want to have all over the city. Repurpose these schools like they had the space, right? If we could repurpose these schools to provide affordable housing for our community, we could work towards systematically ending homelessness. We have so much space available that is not being utilized. Why not utilize that space? Why not work with community partners to be able to make a difference in the lives of people all over this city? It changes the trajectory of how we do work. What if people had affordable housing, if people had income, they wouldn't be what you call invisible anymore, right? You could see them working and living in their communities. And so oftentimes we look at people who are experiencing housing insecurity or homelessness as those people over there. But I look at them as that's me over there, right? And I don't ask a question about what's wrong with them. I say, what happened? Tell me your story. How did you get here? Because every one of us has one, right? And no one sets out on a lifelong ambition to become homeless, right? There is something that happens. And if you inquire with them and have that conversation, you find out that there are more things that are similar than there are not, right? So we have similar life experiences. We've gone through different things, and it's how we choose or how we're able to manage them that's going to make a difference. So having support services available helps people understand that things are manageable. We just have to create those opportunities. We have to create what's possible instead of looking at what's impossible.
Sherry, we just have a few seconds left. That was very well said, by the way. A few seconds left. Are there still vacancies left, and where can people find more information?
Yes, there are still vacancies left. The address is 1711 West 61st Street. It is the Earl Residence. You can look it up on Google and do the search. You can see some of the apartments on there as well. But it's the Earl Residence, 1711 West 61st Street, and they are taking applications daily.
All right, Sherry Allen Reeves, amazing work making a difference for a lot of people. Thank you for what you're doing for the community, and I'm sure we'll be talking with you very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, take a look at that beautiful city. Much more to come here on Chicago Live. We've got some great guests lined up before things kick off with Fox 32 News at 4 o'clock. You don't want to go anywhere. We will be right back.
Fox Chicago.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. A lot of things going on around our city and around the country right now. Do me a favor, take a look at this beautiful shot of our city. Lots of folks got their boats ready to go out there. We say this all the time on Chicago Live. We got to get a friend with a boat. Take a look at this beautiful shot of our skyline. It is a gorgeous day. We're going to be bringing in JD, right? A little JD, a little bit early. Yeah, JD's coming on at about 2:45 to talk about how long this weather is going to last. And a little bit earlier, we were talking about the loss of the great Dolly Parton. This is a live look outside her home in Tennessee. As you can tell, just an outpouring of love from people for whom she meant a lot. You know, she grew up, in poverty in East Tennessee and took so much of her life experience, so much of who she was, and channeled it into the kind of lyrics that didn't just shape country music. It also gave us an insight into who she was. And we were talking with Michelle Lytle a little bit earlier in the show, who years ago crafted a mural that here in Chicago and Edgewater has become kind of this ground zero for comfort for a lot of people. And there really has been this vibe. I was saying it on the loop earlier today that Dolly Parton was kind of this person that we all felt like we knew so well that if she walked through our front door and came to our kitchen and poured herself a glass of iced tea, most of us wouldn't really blink an eye because it felt like she belonged there. She felt like a member of the family. She felt like a friend. So that's why I think you're seeing what you're seeing right now, this live image of people who are coming out and paying their respects, who are leaving mementos, notes, letters, flowers, balloons, just to let the family know that she was loved and that she'll not be forgotten. So you're looking at a live look right now outside of Dolly Parton's home. But we're going to continue on with the show because we got a lot of things coming up that are very important that you're going to want to hear about. So here's the deal. The Treasury is actually trying a new way to push down borrowing costs, and that is by buying back longer-term Treasury bonds. The idea is to sort of increase demand, lift bond prices, and lower yields. So we're actually going to bring in an expert, someone who can talk far more intelligently about this stuff than I can. We're going to bring in Ken Kim, senior economist with KPMG. Ken, I just said a lot of words that for some people, it all makes sense and it all means a lot. But for someone that is going, wait, take me back to take me to square one. What are we talking about? Can you sort of break down a little bit what's actually happening?
Sure. Yeah, Jake, I think you made a great point about how the Treasury is trying to achieve lower interest rates through these buybacks. So in essence, they are creating more demand for bonds by taking supply out of the market. And in terms of simple math, let's say you bought a bond for $100 and it pays back an interest rate of 5% a year. So you're getting $5 every year for that $100 bond. And with the buybacks, it's intended to make that bond appreciate, right? So let's say the price, of that bond goes up from 100 to, something higher. And then because you're getting a fixed income of 5% per year, when you apply that 5% to that higher value of that bond, it's now, 125 instead of $100. Your effective yield falls, right? Instead of being 5%, it goes to, let's say, 4% because you're measuring against now what is a higher appreciated value of that bond you now own. So that's kind of a one way of looking at it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken. We're talking about a $4 billion a week buyback, but we're also talking about a $30 trillion Treasury market. So how much impact does a $4 billion a week buyback have in a $30 trillion Treasury market?
So from what the market is telling us, not a whole lot. Initially, the announcement did catch the market off guard, and on face value, it does seem like a good thing to do. But you're exactly right. 4 billion out of 30 trillion. Is really a drop in the bucket. So the markets are telling us it's not going to do much over the long term. I'm of the belief that these sort of things don't just come out of nowhere, that there's a reason sometimes that these sort of things are happening. What does this move by the Treasury sort of tell us about how concerned policymakers are about sort of these elevated long-term interest rates? From the administration standpoint, yes, they are very concerned because whenever you have interest rates rising, they do put a constraint on economic activity because it's just simply, costs more to borrow, not just for households, but for businesses as well. Because the Treasury market is kind of the base rate that other debt capital costs kind of are derived off of. So with interest rates rising for treasuries, it transmits to the rest of the yield curve or debt capital cost curve. So it is a sign that the administration is concerned that rising interest rates could perhaps dampen economic activity in the future.
Could this eventually, translate into lower mortgage rates, or is that a sort of an overstated connection?
It would translate to lower mortgage rates only if Treasury 10-year yields did fall from the current level. So we're about 4.70% on the Treasury 10-year, and 30-year fixed mortgage rates are probably close to 7% now. So the only way, we think Treasury yields would fall is for the Fed to actually raise rates in September. So showing a commitment that they're going to get inflation under control. But right now, the market is hearing mixed messages from the Federal Reserve. So their concern is that interest rates are gonna go higher, or inflation's gonna go higher, and that's gonna put continued pressure on interest rates to be higher as well. So right now, there is kind of a tension between the Treasury, the Fed, and the market.
Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the Treasury is effectively swapping more long-term debt for short-term debt. Does this create any kind of risk for taxpayers at all?
It does, because if they're swapping, there is always what's called rollover risk. So eventually, whichever sector of the market you're in, whether short-term or long-term, you're going to have to reinvest your money back into the market if it's taken away from you sooner. So the thing is, if you own 10-year or 30-year paper and you're getting that bought back, that might be a good thing right now, but you're going to have to reinvest that later. And if it's at higher yields from a return perspective, that's good. But for borrowers, that's going to be higher rates for them. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. From a creditor perspective, it's a good thing you're getting the higher return. But from a business and household leverage position, it's going to mean that you're going to have to pay more if you want to borrow.
It's a fascinating topic, and I know it can be difficult to try to break all this down. So Ken, we really do appreciate you joining us today. You really did help us break it down in a way that makes it very easy for us to understand. So we do appreciate you joining us this afternoon, sir. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Jake.
Take care. All right, guys, there it is, our beautiful city. Much more to come here on Chicago Live. When we come back, 3 words. It's all you need to hear to know that you're going to want to sit down and listen to this. El Nino Sharks. If that doesn't get you to tune in, I don't know what else we got. But for now, Chicago Live rolls on. Our beautiful skyline right there. El Nino Sharks on the way. We'll tell you more when we come back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Much more to come over the next couple of hours here on the show, but take a beautiful look at that gorgeous city. It is a beautiful day here in the city of Chicago. Our producer Adina was walking out earlier, came out, said that it is absolutely gorgeous. There is lots happening here in our city, and when we come back in just a moment, we have a guest that is going to talk about something that I am fascinated with, which is El Nino sharks. Now, we've had Emily Walls on the show. We had JD on the show these past few weeks. They've talked a lot about kind of just this wild and crazy weather that we've had over the past month. I think it looks beautiful right now, but for a Chicago summer, for something that we often brag about so much, hasn't been great. Massive storms that have devastated people, leaving them without power. Many people, our friends in Northwest Indiana, still struggling with this. And so, we've talked a lot with Emily and JD on the show, and they've brought up this idea of El Nino and it having a massive impact on the weather in our area. Emily was even telling us that that it could impact where sort of that tornado valley is actually considered. I know we've had a record number, I believe, of tornadoes this year in the season, and the impact that it's had on us. So it's a fascinating topic that we're going to be talking more about when JD joins us. But we have another guest who I'm very excited to talk with, because it combines so it's two of my favorite topics, which is weather and sharks. So we are actually going to bring in Chris Fisher, who Chris, whenever I tell you, whenever I walked into the newsroom today, our executive producer Jim Selly said, "Jake, I got something for you," because he knows that I was going to be looking forward to this segment, man. So I appreciate you taking the time. O-Search founder and expedition leader. What an incredible topic. Thank you for taking the time.
Happy to be here.
So talk to me about, like I said, we've been talking a lot about El Nino on the show and the impact that it's having, on our area here in the Chicago area. Talk to me about the impact that it's having on sharks, because this sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I think that it is, okay to specifically try to talk about sharks when you're referring to the El Nino impact in the ocean. But in reality, you really need to be talking about and looking at the entire system, because the sharks are not operating any differently than anything else, right? The whole system is basically shifting north a bit. It happens every time we have an El Nino, where we get this warm pulse of water. It happens on an irregular cycle, but it is a regular thing. And so you see the whole system move north. So yes, you're going to see sharks move north, but you're also going to see all of the prey that they pursue move north, the game fish move north, and pretty much the entire system take a shift north. Now, what I do think is happening here in the United States in the midst of this, that is kind of amplifying how people interpret what's going on this year, is most people don't really understand we're in the midst of this great return to abundance in the United States oceans. After 30 years of amazing management, our systems were wiped out in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We started really focusing on bringing our oceans back around 1990. And since that time, we've done an amazing job with the states and with NOAA, and we're now at abundance levels we haven't seen since the 1960s. So you put this increased amount of all the fish, increased amount of whales, turtles, bait life, and the sharks, it's all shifting north with the El Nino. So people are seeing things they're not used to seeing. The combination of the two, the return to abundance along with the El Nino, it kind of like amplifying the impact visually for people and the experience for people.
I do appreciate you sort of acknowledging that, yes, it is having an impact on sharks, but then reminding people, because listen, I know particularly because people are fascinated with sharks, that sharks can make the headlines, but I appreciate you breaking down that it's sharks in conjunction with a lot of other things that are making this move. You mentioned 3 words I thought was really interesting, a return to abundance. I feel like that's not something, I mean, this feels very positive at a time where I feel like we're hearing about sort of negative things happening with our environment. A return to abundance, this sounds like an amazing thing happening for our oceans.
It is an amazing thing. You know, one of the sad things about being kind of in the nonprofit space is typically when it comes to the messaging, you know, the cash only flows when the sky is falling. So you really just get the constant sky is falling messaging coming from the community. But the fact of the matter is, in the United States, we are winning. Our children are growing up with an ocean that is much, much more abundant than we did. We wiped out the oceans in the 70s and the 80s after Jaws, the rise of Asia, shark fin soup, a lot of kind of global over harvesting. We saw systems collapsing. We saw our economies, the recreational fishing economy collapsing in the United States. In the late 80s and early 90s, we started getting out things like inshore gill nets. We started protecting our sharks in the early 90s. Then we got some long lines off our coast in the early 2000s, things like slot limits, and then the deflectors to save all the turtles from all the draggers. And that all on top of the Marine Mammal Protection Act from about 50 years ago, and protecting our bait fish here in the early 2020s has got us in a position that is just truly fascinating and unbelievable. We are in the midst of the great return to abundance. And the thing that I think is important to talk about here is we don't want to make the same mistakes of the past. Right? We don't want to start to over-harvest a little bit now because we're feeling good about things. Like, I'm excited about getting to 1960s abundance levels, but I'm greedy. Let's go for 1860. Why can't we manage toward abundance while we're in abundance? Let's stop the cycle of abundance, scarcity, right? Let's just keep rolling. So that's what OSEARCH is doing. That's you know what you're going to hear me preaching about is the United States leading the world's oceans back to abundance, because we've done it here and now we can show the rest of the world.
I love that. You touched on something that I always find fascinating, and when given the opportunity, I always love to remind people. You touched on it very briefly, and you said the impact of the movie Jaws. Now listen, you won't find a bigger Jaws fan than me. I have a framed signed poster hanging in my apartment right now. But I also do love to remind people, and here at the Shed Aquarium here in Chicago, there's a huge section around the sharks that reminds people that Jaws is a fictional film. It is a wonderful story to be able to have good times with, but it is not indicative of this thing that normally happens. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter Benchley became big in the world of shark conservation because he sort of recognized the negative impact that this story had. And you know, like I said off the top, people love talking about sharks, but it is important to remind people that it's fun to watch these movies and read these books and tell these stories and stuff, but these are actual animals that need to be, like all the aspects of the ocean, they need to be protected, and they're not to be hunted because of this really fun horror movie that came out 50 years ago.
Yeah, well, there's a couple different things you touched on there. I think first that people need to understand the help is like when you think of a shark, you need to be thinking of a lion or a wolf, right? It is the same position in the food chain, the same role. So this is an exceptional animal. When Jaws came out, this fascination with killing them and people were going after their jaws, as well as, thinking that they defended territories on the beach. Now that we've done the work and we've tracked the animals, we know these things are moving 150 miles a day. They're not hanging out on the same beaches. The life of the movie is not indicative of what we now understand their real life is to be like. But that did trigger this kind of wave of people going after them. And what we know now is their population collapsed into single-digit percentages because it takes these animals 30 years until they can have babies. So if you start catching them, they can't keep up and the population collapses. So we started protecting them in the early 90s. They're coming back now. We're into the probably maybe 25% or so of where we ought to be, where we started out in single digit percentages. So we have great trajectory. It just takes time with things like white sharks because once they're born, they can't mate and have babies until they're 30 years old. So it's a slow go on the rebuild, but we're winning slowly but surely. We just got to maintain trajectories we have now.
So to kind of go back to the beginning of the conversation, we are seeing sort of the sharks, in greater numbers along some of the beaches. To let people know, you brought up a good point. They are constantly moving. They have to be constantly moving. So just because they're at one beach on a Tuesday doesn't mean that they're hanging out waiting for you. Don't take it personally. So for people that happen to be maybe in an area, because our videos end up being spread far and wide around the country and around the world, for someone that sees this video and they happen to be in an area where maybe they've been spotted, what do people need to be made aware of? And I feel like this is a good opportunity to remind people that, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert. Shark attacks are often the result of an accident, right? They think that you're something else.
Yes, the sharks are typically, we trick them. Right? What happens is we put ourselves in the wrong spot. And typically what we do is we put ourselves in the midst of where the food chain is coming together. So what you want to do is look at the ocean before you go in the water. If you see a bunch of birds diving and crashing on baits, there's going to be game fish eating the baits, right? The poor baits, they get fed on from the birds on the top, and then they got the fish pushing them up from the bottom. When that's happening, then the sharks come in and the porpoise come in, and the entire food chain is colliding. That's what you're witnessing. So you don't want to swim out into the middle of that. You want to watch that, let it drift by, and then jump into the water when it's nice and quiet, because you'll see these kind of areas of activity drifting down the beach, all associated with kind of bait balls. So just watch that and go in where it's nice and quiet. You won't have to worry about a thing. You don't need to put on a black wetsuit and go surfing amongst the seals if you know the white sharks are in there feeding on those seals. That being said, we fool them very infrequently, and I do understand why people who love to surf do it. But there again, we typically are making it tough on the sharks. It's really kind of incredible how infrequently we fool them.
Really valuable information, and for a topic that I do think a lot of people are fascinated with. Chris, is there a great place where people can find a little bit more information that you would point them toward?
Yeah, go to osearch.org. You can track all the white sharks in real time. You can download the free osearch app. And right now we're giving away a trip to come out on expedition. So download the app and enter the sweepstakes. Come on out and learn about sharks. The fact of the matter is, if we're seeing lots of sharks in the water, our children are going to see an ocean full of fish, and we want to leave them with that so that we know that food security is part of their future. That was something we didn't know we were going to have in the 1990s, but I'm proud to say in the United States of America in 2020, we can guarantee our children a safe food future when it comes to our seafood in the USA.
Chris, did you just say that you guys are giving away the chance to come out on the water with you guys?
Yeah, if you go to the website or download the app, you can enter a sweepstakes, and we're giving out a trip for people to come out for a few days and tag sharks with us.
Listen, Chris, I'm just going to throw this out there, and I haven't talked to the bosses about it, but this sounds like a great episode of Chicago Live. We're this new improved version of the show right now, and I don't see a reason why we couldn't do the show live on a boat with you, man. What do you, I mean, what are you sold? Are we in?
That sounds like a fantastic idea. I'm thinking like late February, March on the Florida Panhandle, or maybe like August in Newfoundland next year.
Listen, late February, everybody in this newsroom is going to want to get out of Chicago and go to Florida, man. So I don't know if you're going to have enough room for everybody that's going to find a reason to be out there with you. But listen, man, that sounds great. Keep doing the work that you're doing.
Trip. That'll be a pioneering trip. Never have we done a white shark trip in the Gulf. It's a big deal. You should come out and help us share it with the world. We'd love to have you.
I love it. And listen, you said it on Chicago Live, so that's basically law. Now it has to happen. We're in. Hey, Chris, we do appreciate your time. A really fascinating topic. And like I said, it's fun to talk about sharks, but also as a lover of the animal, I love that we can actually really get it out there. So we do appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, man. You have a good one. Cheers.
Appreciate it. Take care. All right, guys, there's a great, beautiful body of water that has no sharks in it whatsoever. Beautiful day here in Chicago. We have a lot to come. We are already over an hour into the show. I don't know how it happened, but it was a beautiful thing that's happened so far. We got lots more to come here on Chicago Live. Some amazing guests. You know what? I love that we're getting a chance to look at all the beautiful things that are happening around our city, taking a look at the skyline. But I want to bring in JD and know this beautiful weather, those blue skies, How long are they going to stay? We'll have the answer coming up at about 2:45. But before that, much more. Don't go anywhere. Chicago Live rolls on. We will be right back. Learn more. It is a beautiful day in the city of Chicago. You know, I was talking with some folks not too long ago about the fact that a lot of TV stations around the country have these things called beauty shots, which is different cameras posted up around the city that you can go to. Like take a look at this. Like, we can randomly at any moment go to that shot. We can randomly at any moment fade to our beautiful skyline. We can randomly at any moment go to a number of beautiful shots around our city. I just happen to feel like the shots that we have in the city of Chicago, the camera placement that we have around the city of Chicago. I mean, look, just next to the Chicago Live bug, we've got the Buckingham Fountain. I just happen to believe that we have the best sort of collection of cameras posted up around the most beautiful city. I am biased, but it's a beautiful thing to behold. So we've got a lot more to come. Like I said, we're an hour into the show. Some really important topics. I saw this one a little bit earlier and was hoping it would be in the show. And then, of course, because of our amazing producers behind the scenes, shout out to Perry, I knew that it would end up being a topic, and it most certainly is. Meta has agreed to pay up to $16.7 billion to settle a lawsuit brought on by 29 states over allegations that its platform harmed children's mental health. We're going to bring in Julie Scelfo, who is the founder and executive director of Mothers Against Media Addiction. First of all, Julie, a pleasure to chat with you. We had the chance to chat a little bit during the break. You're talking to us out of New York, right?
I am. I'm based in New York, but Mama has chapters all over the country, including in Illinois. So
I love that.
It's especially good to talk to you today.
It's great to talk with you. I just want to clarify for people, Mama is Mothers Against Media Addiction. So listen, this has got to be a major, when you saw this news that this was breaking, because it's not just a multi-billion-dollar settlement. There are repercussions to this as well. Can you talk a little bit about what this ultimately means for children in regards to the social media?
Absolutely. I mean, first to introduce Mama to your viewers, we are a grassroots movement of parents and allies fighting back against media addiction and creating a world where real life experiences and interactions remain at the heart of a healthy childhood. We're not anti-tech. We think tech can be really helpful and we think it can be fun. We just know that if children are using it, it needs to be designed in a way that is safe and responsible to ensure they're not exposed to content that is dangerous or harmful or that could hurt their mental health. So I started Mama because I was a journalist and I was reporting on the role of social media in the national emergency in child and adolescent mental health. And for years now, these companies have been addicting our children, sharing terrible, harmful content with them about suicide, self-harm, and other violent adult things. And this settlement proves once and for all that Meta knew the design of their products was harmful. And they are not only going to be settling with 47 states and Washington, D.C., but they are agreeing to critical design changes of their platform to make sure their products aren't addictive or unsafe for teenagers.
Is this obviously, I'd imagine, a step in the right direction in regards to helping children sort of be kept from what we have now learned are real issues when it comes to social media? Is it enough?
So I think you're exactly right, Jake, to call it a step in the right direction. We think this is a very good first step. The amount of money, while it is billions of dollars, it's a tiny fraction of the amount of money that Meta has been making. And there's not enough money in the world to make up for the loss of children's lives. And we know that hundreds, if not thousands of children have died or suffered because of things they've experienced on social media because of the design of social media products. So we care that there is some payment here, but more importantly, Meta has agreed to make significant changes to the design of the platform. That includes limiting the amount of time teenagers can spend on the platform. It means eliminating addictive features, things like the like and the infinite scroll. Those are things that function a lot like slot machines and make the brain addicted. They also have agreed to stop doing things like sending overnight notifications on school nights because, as according to their own internal documents have shown, young preteens and teens are stuck on Instagram after midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. on school night, and it's just on school nights, and it's just not healthy for their brains, their bodies, or for their education.
Julie, I know we're talking about all of these regulations in regards to kids. I feel like adults need some of this too. Listen, and I know I have the ability to pull out my phone and change some of the notifications. Isn't there a small part of you that thinks like, you know, I'm a nearly 40-year-old man. There are a lot of adults that kind of need to these sort of scale back a little bit on social media. Would you agree with that?
I have to admit that I'm addicted to media too.
Sure.
So we're not pointing fingers at Mothers Against Media Addiction. We want everybody to wake up to the fact that it is not healthy for us to be on screens all of the time. So yes, there is a lot of evidence that parent tech use shapes what their children are going to do. And we want parents and grandparents to pay more attention when they're with kids, when there's kids in front of them, that they're not on the screens all the time, so they set a good example. But even more importantly, you know, as we've seen in Illinois, you know, your governor just signed into effect 3 important laws over the last few months that every single state should copy. And one is a phone ban during the school day, which is a bell-to-bell ban so kids can be fully present with their teachers and their classmates. The second is a Children's Social Media Act, which creates a duty of care so that social media platforms in your state have to be designed with children's safety in mind. And we'd love to see similar legislation everywhere, and for Congress to get off their butts and pass the Kids Online Safety Act as the Senate has designed it. And finally, in the state of Illinois, you have passed and enacted the country's best, toughest AI safety law in the nation. And that means that AI, artificial intelligence, needs to be designed with human safety in mind as well. At Mama, we're not going to stop fighting until all of these tech products are safe by design for our kids.
Julie, you know, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. These kids are smart. right? Like these kids have the ability to do things on computers these days that, you know, I feel like I've seen in movies, but couldn't even begin to tell you how to do it. Is there a way that some of these kids are going to be able to get around any of these changes that the social media is going to be is attempting to implement?
I mean, look, Jake, I wasn't a perfect teenager, and I'll admit that I tasted my first beer before I was 21. But we as a society have set it up so that it is not easy or practical for youngsters to drink, and that's why we don't allow children to buy alcohol. We don't allow kids to go in and see R or X-rated movies, and we don't allow kids to go into casinos. So I think it's very important that we as a society recognize that there are certain experiences that are fine for adults, or maybe they're not perfect for adults, and maybe they're even addictive. It's a free country. We're going to have things for adults that are not the healthiest. But everyone agrees, it's a completely bipartisan issue, that kids deserve to be protected. We want to ensure that they can grow up in a way that's safe and healthy, and we are very grateful to all the attorneys general who fought to make today's settlement happen, because they are looking out for America's kids and families.
Julie, I appreciate you being honest off the top of that answer. I will tell you that my mom is watching, so I would like for the record to state that I was the perfect child who never did anything wrong.
Well, my mom is watching too, probably, and she loves me anyway. And I will also say that, you know, kids are very clever and they will get around things. And that's part of the reason why it's so important to ensure that the school day is not overloaded with technology that hasn't been proven to help education. There are examples where tech can be really helpful in specific narrow situations. But what we've seen is these companies don't really care about our children. They don't care about families. They don't care about kids' education. It's all about the bottom line. So I hope your viewers will check us out at wearemama.org. We'd love to have more people in Illinois and more Mama chapter leaders there too.
You know, Julie, my girlfriend and I were expecting our first child, and just under 2 months. And you know, one of the things we were talking about is we're going to have to, like, I mean, our parents didn't really have to worry about social media when we were children, but it's going to be something that my girlfriend and I are going to have to worry about with our son. We're going to have to figure out what his social media, what he's allowed and what he's not allowed. These are all really interesting decisions I never really thought about. Right now, what should parents be looking at in regards to their kids' social media habits? Are there any red flags that if a parent is maybe seeing this out of the corner of their eyes, they should think to themselves, I might want to step in here?
Well, if you visit our website, which is wearemama.org, there are a lot of resources for parents and expecting parents to think about the appropriate use of technology in the classroom, in their homes, in their communities. And, you know, we have just become a media addicted society. You almost can't go anywhere anymore without seeing screens in restaurants, in elevators, in cars. And the human brain and body was just not designed to be able to absorb all of that information all the time. So the overuse of screens has really contributed to mental health problems, even for adults. And the experts say the best thing you can do for infants and toddlers is don't give them any screens. Delay, delay, delay. Wait. They will have no problem learning how to use them as soon as they see them. But the more interaction you can give them, the more call and response, verbal conversation you have with them, the best you'll be setting them up to become readers, to become curious, and to be able to function socially with other people. So, you know, if they have older kids and you see that your child is moody or depressed, they are not allowing you to sit with them and see what's on their screen, they're shutting the door, they prefer to be inside instead of going out and socializing with peers, those can be red flags, and we encourage you to look at our resources. And if you're really worried, talk to your pediatrician, because there can be really severe media addiction.
Julie, we have just a couple of seconds left, but I know we've been talking about a lot of different changes that are being made because of this ruling. If you could require Meta to make one change in regards to sort of their social media platforms, what's that great white whale? What is the change that isn't made yet, but you're still really hoping is made someday?
Well, I can't pick one, but I'm going to say a couple. And one is that they start showing what's called a duty of care to children's safety. And that means they design their products in a way that has child safety in mind to begin with. The second is I would like to see Congress eventually treat all social media platforms like publishers so that they are accountable for the accuracy of the information that we publish. For too long, they've been able to publish whatever nonsense they want because it gives them clicks and helps them make money, but it's not really helpful. As a journalist, I'm someone that really values facts, and I don't think it's fair to the American people that we allow fake content that doesn't have, real value to travel and be amplified even more sometimes than substantive reporting.
Julie, this has been really a fascinating conversation. We really do appreciate your time. Thank you for breaking it down for us. And I'd imagine this is going to be one of those important topics that is going to continue on. So please join us back so we can talk more about it.
All best wishes with your baby that's coming.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. We'll take it. Thanks very much. Have a good day. All right, guys, there she is, the beautiful skyline we know and love. I'm loving the blue skies. I'm loving the clouds. We've got a lot coming up here on Chicago Live. You don't want to go anywhere. We're going to bring in JD and just about 2:45, so just about 25 minutes to find out those blue skies you're looking at. How long are they going to last? We'll tell you more coming up right here on Chicago Live. Don't go anywhere.
Wow.
All right, guys, we are back on Chicago Live. A beautiful day here in the city of Chicago. Much more to come. We aren't even halfway done with the show yet, and the best is yet to come. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. We've got a lot of amazing things coming up in just the coming hour here. I mentioned at about 2:45, JD is going to join us to talk about those blue skies we were looking at, just how long they're going to last. But we've got a really great guest before that, because the Chicago Community Loan Fund, celebrating 35 years of investing in underserved communities across Chicago. We are going to bring in Lucretia L. Parks, Chief Risk Officer and VP of Portfolio Management with Chicago Community Loan Fund. First of all, I got to say, Lucretia, amazing title. That's fantastic. You sound very important, and that's the kind of people we love on Chicago Live. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much, Jay. I really appreciate you having us.
Of course. So, I mean, 35 years of community lending. Tell us about the needs that maybe traditional banks are not meeting that you guys are able to help out with.
Sure. So, as you can imagine, the Chicago Community Loan Fund was created because of redlining and contract buying and racial discrimination. So we're helping small developers and local not-for-profit and for-profit organizations that are looking to develop real estate in the communities that we serve, low to moderate income areas within the Chicagoland market. And we're helping them to get those projects up and running and to eliminate blight throughout the Chicagoland area.
My favorite kind of question sometimes to ask is, how the hell did that happen? And I'm going to ask it to you because the CCLF started with just $200,000 and now has more than $200 million in assets. So I get to ask my favorite question, which is, how the hell did that happen?
Oh my goodness. It happened with a lot of visionaries, and they had a dream. They saw what was going on in the areas that we serve, and they saw that banks were not providing finances or financial resources in those areas. So to respond to that, these visionaries decided to, as you said, that $200,000, they put that together. They made calls, they knocked on doors, they were out in the streets trying to figure out how they could grow those dollars and how they could put those investments in the hands of those developers in those neighborhoods that could do that work. And that's what we've done for the last 35 years.
Agrisha, what are the biggest barriers right now in regards to capital for small developers?
So for small developers, it's still that lack of experience. It's still the zip codes where their projects are located, because some banks are still not providing the financial tools in those neighborhoods. And then it's the social impact. So we're the Chicago Community Loan Fund, as well as other CDFIs, we're very interested in the impact, the social impact that these projects make from the standpoint of creating jobs, eliminating blight, turning vacant properties into livable spaces again, rentable spaces, spaces that people can live, work, and shop in. And that's what we're looking to continue to do.
And thankfully so. What are some of the Chicago neighborhoods or the types of projects maybe that you think are most in need of investment right now?
That are most in need. I'll start a twofold with that. Some of the projects that we have done throughout the Chicagoland area is the former Robert Taylor Homes, which was demolished in 2007. That was 28 high-rise apartment buildings that had like 16 stories per building. That's now the home of Excess Tennis Village on the south side of Chicago. It's the state-of-the-art tennis village that has 27 tennis courts, both indoors and outdoors, a fitness center, basketball court, a restaurant, right? So that was former vacant land. We, CCLF, along with CNI and the Pullman community, we've helped to bring a Culver's to the Pullman community, a Pullman Rec Center, a Pullman Museum, and a national monument that's now in the Pullman area that was never there. As a matter of fact, President Obama designated the Pullman National Historic Park as a national park, and it's on the south side of Chicago. So we're very proud of that.
I love that. Listen, I'm a big believer of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You guys have been doing clearly something right over the past 35 years, but is there anything looking forward that you go, you know what, we're going to get better about this?
Absolutely. So as you said, we're looking to celebrate our 35th year on September 10th, but we're looking to do more lending in Lake County, in DuPage County, and in Will County and McHenry County. We're looking to also double down on the south and west sides of Chicago because, again, we want to continue to eliminate blight, and we want to continue to provide financing to these local small not-for-profit and for-profit developers throughout the Chicagoland area.
So maybe someone's listening right now and they're thinking, this sounds right for me. I haven't been able to find sort of the right sort of resources. This sounds right. Are there any green flags that someone can look at to know that they should be reaching out to you guys?
I would say if you have a dream, reach out to the Chicago Community Loan Fund. We're here to listen to you, to provide technical assistance to you. Maybe, you feel as your project is not ready. We're here to hold your hand and walk with you and provide you with that technical assistance so your project will be ready. So I would say reach out to us. We're located at 29 East Madison Street, Suite 1700. You can find us on our website at www.cclfchicago.org. And you can also contact us by telephone at 312-252-0440.
Lucretia Parks, we really do appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you for breaking all of this down, and thank you for what you do, giving back to the community. We do appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Jake. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys, the time is just about 2:30. Much more to come here on Chicago Live. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things, including that weather you're looking at right now. What are the chances that it's going to stick around? And what are the chances that we might have some rain on the way? JD is going to answer that question in just about 15 minutes. But for now, Chicago Live rolls on. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. So much more to come over the next hour and a half. We are over halfway done with the show. A lot of things that we're going to be talking about, but something that I did want to get the chance to chat about a little bit, because so many people right now are very much feeling the passing of the late, great Dolly Parton, because she is someone who deeply impacted so many of us. But we also lost another legend in the world of entertainment today. We lost actor Tim Curry, who passed away yesterday in his home, and the news just broke a little bit later. And Tim Curry, the reason that I am just so unbelievably deeply impressed with his career is that Tim Curry is someone, because sometimes unfortunately when an actor or an entertainer passes away, in the newsroom we have to sit down and have a discussion about what video, what of their work do we show. And sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's clearly, well, you have to show this actor in that thing, or you have to play a clip from this song that performer sang. But with Tim Curry, we had a group of people gathered around the desks from different generations, and every single one of them had a different project of his that they wanted to talk about, that they wanted to bring up. Some people brought up the role of Dr. Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show, which famously didn't particularly do well when it came out, but became this cult classic, playing midnight in theaters, including right here in Chicago at the Music Box Theater. They do midnight screenings all the time. For myself, growing up, he was the original Pennywise the Dancing Clown in the television adaptation of Stephen King's It, long before it was on the big screen with Bill Skarsgård. It was on ABC. In your home. I had it on sort of the 2-tape when they released it on VHS. To me, that was always fantastic. For a lot of people, I know Home Alone 1 is the pinnacle, it being the Chicago connection here in town. But if you're a fan of Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, he was the sort of the villain behind the counter that gave Macaulay Culkin a hard time. He worked at the Plaza Hotel, New York's most exciting hotel experience. And so it's just a great reminder that there are so many different opportunities to check out his work. I know that many of us are still dealing with the loss of Dolly Parton, but don't forget to take a moment and just find an old film of Tim Curry's and just, if anything, watch it for a couple of minutes. He was a great performer and one that will be deeply missed. So we have a lot going on here in the city of Chicago, a lot of important topics to get to in the coming moments, but we'll tell you more about everything you need to know going on in and around the city when we come back. Chicago Live rolls on. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Chicago Live. So many beautiful things going on around the city, including that shot right there. I don't take this one enough, but I always love doing it because it's always such a beautiful reminder that there are people that travel far and wide to come to our city, to be able to come out and take some photos, take a selfie, and it's always nice to be reminded that this beautiful city that we get to call home, that people make an effort to come out here and check it out all for themselves because they don't get all the amazing things that we do on a regular basis. It is 2:37 here on Chicago Live. I'm your host, Jake Hamilton. This is a topic that is going to hit home for anyone who maybe they've had their car impounded or maybe they've just sort of had to deal with Streets and Sands, in any form or fashion, a new Chicago Inspector General audit actually finds problems with the city's auto pound system, including incomplete vehicle records, confusing retrieval requirements, and risks of vehicle damage. We are going to bring in Ben Spees, Chief Performance Analyst, Audit and Program Review with the City of Chicago Office of Inspector General. First of all, Ben, thank you for taking the time. I'd imagine this is one of those topics that when you bring up Streets and Sands, when you bring up, people, having their car impounded for whatever reason, a lot of people probably have opinions about this.
Yeah, I think that's true. First of all, thank you for having me. And you're kind of hitting on the point of why we did this audit to begin with, was to look into whether or not the Department of Streets and Sanitation can make the experience of retrieving an impounded car better. And we found, as you pointed out, that, yeah, there are some opportunities to do that.
And what were some of those opportunities? Because I'd imagine you guys received a long list of potential improvements that maybe they could be making.
Yeah, so as you alluded to, we did find that there was a confusing and sometimes frustrating retrieval process. So information on whether someone's car was towed and where it was impounded, if so, wasn't always readily available to customers. And then the steps that the customers would need to take and the documents that they would need to bring with them to actually retrieve the car, those weren't always clearly communicated. So that could lead to some frustration once people arrived at the pound locations. We noted that the pounds could improve vehicle storage and security to prevent damage. So, for example, the pounds didn't have a whole lot of security camera coverage. One of the pounds did not have a perimeter barrier going all the way around the pound to prevent unauthorized entry to the pound. And then, as you mentioned, we found that the pounds were not maintaining a live inventory of vehicles. It's a pretty paper-based process, and so the department approximated inventories using paper impoundment records and manual workarounds, but this was imperfect.
There's a stat here that I want to bring up that I thought was interesting, was that you guys could not determine whether 15% of vehicles had been redeemed, disposed of, or remained impounded. I mean,
right. So this was looking at the digital. Yes. So this is looking at the digital impoundment record that the department uses, which, again, subject to a pretty manual workaround process, wasn't always fully populated with all of the impoundment records that the department had. So from a sample of impoundments that we looked at, 15% of them, it wasn't clear whether or not those cars had been redeemed by their owners, whether they had been disposed because the redemption period had expired, or whether they were still on the lot.
So they just didn't know where they were?
It's possible to find where most of those cars were looking through the stacks of paper records, and that operationally is what this program's been doing for a while. But for somebody who wanted to look at a glance and see how many cars are currently in the possession of the Department of Streets and Sanitation, it was really difficult to do that using the database that the department uses.
Ben, how much of the responsibility falls to the city itself, and how much of the responsibility falls to the towing contractor?
Sure. So that's a good question. Most people are familiar with the three main pounds that the city uses. There's one on Lower Wacker Drive that services the Central Business District. That's operated directly by Streets and Sanitation. There's another pound on Sacramento Avenue on the west side. That's operated by the towing contractor. And the pound at Doty Avenue on the far south side is also operated by the towing contractor. So the department oversees the contract, so they are ultimately responsible for safely storing all of the vehicles that the city impounds. But yes, about a good portion of that work is contracted out.
You guys found that customers are not always clearly told what documents or payments or steps they need to retrieve their vehicle. So in that regards, is it a quick fix? Are there certain things that the city could be doing differently in that regard?
There are things the city could be doing, and we issued a list of recommendations to which the Department of Streets and Sanitation agreed, which is always great. So some of that is centralizing that information in a single source. So could the city put all of this information on a single web page and ensure that the documents that are listed there are consistent with any policies and procedures that they have operationally on the back end? So there's a bit of work to do, but the department agreed that that's a good recommendation.
Sort of, reading up on this, it does sort of feel like the Inspector General, it's saying that the system does generally work, but it could be a little bit more transparent, maybe a little bit more accessible. So is this primarily an efficiency problem? Is it a customer service problem, or is it more of an oversight problem?
It could be a little of a few of those things. Again, as you point out, we acknowledge that the city impounds a lot of cars. And generally speaking, people are able to get their cars back if they intend to get their cars back. But the process doesn't necessarily need to be as difficult as it is. It's always a bad day to get your car towed, to have to go to the auto pound, particularly without the use of your car. But it doesn't necessarily need to be so onerous or so confusing as it has been.
Unfortunately, if someone is watching right now and thinking, man, like my car is impounded right now, and he's absolutely right, this is going to be a pain to try to make this happen. What are some quick tips you would give someone right now dealing with this?
Well, there are several phone numbers that the individuals can call. They're listed on the city's website. We also list them in our report, which is available at igchicago.org. When in doubt, communicate, I would say, is the best advice that I can give somebody.
And some of these changes that we're talking about, realistically, when might we see them? And what do you think are some of the earliest changes that we might be seeing come from this?
So the good news is the department has taken action on some of these things already. An audit can be a long process, and that gives departments sometimes chance to change things midstream, which is great. Some of the corrective actions they've committed to by the middle of 2027. As a standard process, we do follow up on every audit that we issue. So we will re-engage with the department at some point in 2027 to ask, great, what is the status of these corrective actions that you said you'd do?
Ben Spies, really, really fascinating topic that, like I said, I hate to say it, but it probably hits home for a lot of people. So listen, all we want is for our city to be as best as it could possibly be. And you know what? If there was room for improvement here, I'm glad we were able to find it. So really, we do appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate it too. Thank you.
Ben, we appreciate it. Take care. All right, guys, it is a beautiful day here in the city of Chicago, but I've been teasing it for the last hour and 45 minutes. In just a second, the man, the myth, the legend, he's waiting in the wings. He's going to tell you, those blue skies you're looking at, those clouds you're looking at, how much longer are they going to be here? I feel like in the times that we've been taking these shots that we've been seeing a few more clouds in the sky. There's a little bit of a hazy look right now. But listen, we've got much more to come here on Chicago Live. You don't want to go anywhere. JD joins us in just a moment. We will be right back.
All right, everyone, we're back back here on this lovely Wednesday afternoon. Meteorologist J.D. Rudd jumping in to talk some weather with you today. As Jake told you about a couple of moments ago, the clouds have looked a little ominous in the sky from occasion, but nothing too menacing as it stands right now. We'll just kind of show you how things look. We've got the fair weather, I'd call them fair weather cumulus clouds. These do have a hint of storminess to them, certainly some rising motion in the atmosphere, but all the newest data that I've seen and I've looked at is suggesting that with each passing minute, the threat for any kind of severe weather may actually be off more so to our south and east, especially southeast of greater Chicagoland areas. So this is good news. We had a risk level in play, and I'm going to share this with you for some severe weather across northwest Indiana. This is the most recent outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. A new update is expected to come out within the next 20 to about 30 minutes, and I'm willing to bet in that new update we're going to see a big shift in that area in yellow, which is the level 2 risk of severe weather, because the latest satellite radar data that we have is suggesting that whatever is going to happen today may fall just outside of our overall viewing area. Let me show you where things stand right now with the satellite and radar picture. Here's kind of the overall view, and if you take a look at what's going on there across west central sections of Indiana where the clouds are kind of blowing up near Lafayette. Let me see if I can zoom in on that just a little bit. More than a little bit. How about a lot of bit? Just south of Rensselaer. That's where the storms are starting to develop. So that's going to be the initial line of activity. I don't see anything going on behind that line today. So basically from South Bend through Rochester to, we'll call it northwest of Lafayette, Louisiana, that's going to be that line that's developing along this front, and the activity will push more to the south and southeast as the afternoon wears on. So what that means for most of us is we should be taken out of the overall risk for severe weather, which will be welcome news to many. Here's the radar picture right now, just the radar by itself. And again, you can kind of see where things are developing and bubbling as we speak. And a lot of this is going to be outside of our traditional coverage area. Now, that's not to say you don't maybe have some friends, some family or whatnot that might be in some of these areas across north central or central Indiana. So give them a heads up that lines of thunderstorms are heading their way. Matter of fact, it looks like in the last couple of moments, I see an orange box popping up there. Let me see if I can highlight that. New severe thunderstorm warning in play. Let's see what's going on with that warning as we get the radar up to speed. That's a warning until 3:30 for the Fulton County area there in Indiana. So again, outside of our traditional coverage area, that's where the storms are starting to bubble and get their act together. So Futurecast does pick up on this as we go throughout the day, suggesting that whatever's out there is not really a problem for us here across greater Chicagoland or northwest Indiana. That means if you have any plans this evening, you were thinking about doing something, but maybe the weather was giving you second thoughts, that should not be the case. It's still going to be warm, might even be a skosh on the sticky side in some cases. Not overly humid by any means. It is the end of August. It's supposed to be on the warm side, but in terms of big-time rain, big-time thunder, that does not look to be the case for us. Here's 10 p.m. this evening. Things looking pretty good all across the area, and we'll keep it quiet overnight tonight into early Thursday morning. A few passing clouds overnight tonight, a nice little northwest breeze. Perhaps we can drop those dew point values overnight, which should lead to a pretty comfortable overnight in most cases, and it should be a nice sun-filled start to our Thursday. And this is going to begin a pretty decent stretch of weather tomorrow and on through the weekend. Little cloud cover comes into play for the afternoon tomorrow. That's nothing that we can't handle. Forecast model wants to suggest a spotty shower or two in Indiana. Can't rule that out, but I think most of us will wind up staying on the quiet side as we go throughout the day tomorrow. So really not bad as we head to the second part of the week. We were talking about this off air in a meeting a couple of minutes ago, how the power outages have gone up. Look at this, 600 power outages in Lake County, Indiana. You got 700 power outages in Cook County, 800 in Will County. What is happening here? Part of this, and I can't speak for every single one of these outages, but part of this is still the leftovers of those storms, crews trying to rebuild, and in some cases they do have to drop power to add more power. power. On the surface, it doesn't make much sense, but when they're reconstructing full-fledged power lines and power poles, that's kind of what has to be done in some cases. So that may be part of the reason that we're seeing some of those numbers increasing in some areas. But if you're worried about big-time thunderstorms making a return, as it looks right now, they're not. I mean, this might be one of the quietest 7-day stretches we have. We're still... How do I put it nicely? We're still on the fence about the potential for some rain and thunder late Sunday night into Monday. You know how these things work. We're still a handful of days away. The data is fuzzy. Things get a little more clear. We buff out the harder edges as we get closer to the actual days. So we'll fine-tune that Sunday, Monday forecast. It does not look to be an all-day thing or anything else like that. If we really had to narrow it down as it looks right now, it's a late Sunday night into early Monday morning kind of a thing. Otherwise, much of the daytime Sunday and Monday both looking good. And if you are thinking to yourself, hey, I know that September's around the corner, meteorological fall, that begins on Tuesday of next week, but no real signs of fall. 85 on Tuesday and maybe close to 90 on Wednesday. Summer always likes to hang on a little bit longer around here, it seems. Speaking of which, temperatures right now, many of us in the mid-80s. Gary checking in at 86, officially 82 at O'Hare and Midway, 85 in Joliet, 82 for Kankakee and Rensselaer. How about those dew point values? Again, it's still sticky, muggy in some cases. Rensselaer's dew point 71. That is going to drop once that front works its way through. 61, the dew point value right now at O'Hare and Rockford. I do expect those values to kind of subside as we go deeper into the night tonight. So maybe just on the comfy to sticky side for tomorrow. Friday, dew points may slip a little bit more as we head into Saturday, and then dew points look to go back up Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week. So that's why I say just because meteorological fall begins Tuesday, September 1st, it doesn't ever mean that summer's officially done with us. We're going to have plenty of time to keep things warm, keep things humid, and I also wouldn't be surprised if we have more chances for showers and storms throughout the month of September as well. So at least in the short term, storm chances off to our south and southeast. That gives us a nice, comfortable, and quiet evening with no storms to worry about. Of course, we'll look ahead to things and have a refreshed forecast coming up on the newscast at 4 and 5 with Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls. We'll take a break and take a look at what's coming ahead on our newscast. Jake and Lauren make a return here in just a minute. Stay with us on Chicago Live.
welcome back to Chicago Live. Take a look at that. You just got the update from JD about all things weather related and what we have going on in just around the city of Chicago. There's so much that's going to be happening that you're not going to want to miss in the coming hour here on Chicago Live. And then you might as well just stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss everything coming up on Fox 32 News at 4. But for now, we've got some amazing things happening on the show, and that is because the myth, the legend, Lawrence Graffiti is here. Can we do a long distance high five?
Hey, yeah, we can.
How you doing?
Oh, we'll always make it happen.
So
Jake,
listen,
thanks for having me.
this is a very busy time. I always sort of love giving kind of people behind the scenes. Also, I never get to use this shot, which is very cool.
Yeah, all right, looks good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, arranged by some amazing people. Listen, we're just about an hour out from the 4 o'clock show. This is a very busy time for you. So just kind of a little bit behind the scenes on a normal, because right to my right is a whole glass and is a whole newsroom of very hardworking people that are getting ready for the rest of the newscast throughout the day. Normal time on a weekday, 3 o'clock. What are you doing?
Oh, it is so busy in there. I almost wish that we can turn the camera around just so that you can see all of the people working so hard to make the news at 4 and 5 and 9 happen. I mean, our 9 o'clock show is being put together as we speak. And it's so interesting. Like, you think back to a day like yesterday, okay? Sure. We'll say it was like 1 o'clock yesterday. I came out of the loop and I walked back to the 5 o'clock producer, Sloan. She goes, well, Dolly just died. So there goes our whole show, right? You have to rearrange everything. So now this is a really, really busy time in the newsroom. Just talking to reporters about what they've got going on, stories that are coming up as we speak, stories that we're trying to develop from earlier this morning. So I want to tell you a little bit of what we've got going on. Brett is going to be covering NIFSCO updates. So this is something that we've been talking about for 15 days now because it's all happened 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. So yesterday, you'll probably remember that NIFSCO said that they were hoping to have all of the power back on for everybody, and that is not the case. Some people are still in the dark. So Brett Bagansky is asking all of the hard, important questions, and he will have those updates for you when you join us a little bit later. Joni Lum is covering the murder of Octavia Redmond. She was murdered about 2 years ago. It was July of 2024, and she was 48 years old. She was working for USPS. She was a letter carrier, and she was shot in West Pullman. So Chicago police and U.S. Marshals have actually arrested a man in connection to this. He's supposed to be in court today, so we're going to have all of the latest from that. He's facing 2 counts of felony murder. Let's talk about the story that Leslie Moreno is covering. She's talking about an e-bike crash on Milwaukee Avenue. This is something that we've covered so much, it seems like, these crashes between cars and bikes. So this one happened on Friday around 8 o'clock at night, and a woman was driving a Ford. She hit a biker, and that biker went to the hospital. And so that person is actually going to meet Leslie at the scene where this happened. And I always just applaud these victims so much when they can go back to the scene of an accident like that just a couple days after it happened. Really, really tough. He's really upset that police are not charging her. So we're going to hear his story at 4, 5, and 9. Coming up at 5 o'clock, I've got 2 live Zooms, 2 live interviews happening during the show that I'm ready to share with you. So we're talking about the Meta settlement. Now, this was a big one. Meta is paying more than $16 billion in this settlement. The lawsuit said that Facebook and Instagram were built in ways that hurt kids. So we're going to be talking live to a mother who actually lost her teenage son to suicide because of all of this going on. She's got some really powerful words for us. She has previously described social media as a war zone for kids. So we're going to be hearing her really impactful and sad story a little bit later. The other live interview that we have coming up at 5 o'clock today, we're talking about measles. So you may have heard that 2 people died in Pennsylvania. Now, this was a really big deal. This is the first 2 deaths from measles this year. Now, you may be thinking, Pennsylvania, we live in Illinois. Well, just because it happened all the way over there, there are still implications here. There are still things that we need to be looking out for here in the Midwest. So we're going to have that coming up for you. We'll have a little snippet of Father Flager this morning. He spoke for the first time since his reinstatement after those sexual abuse allegations. So we're going to have a little bit on that. And Jake, I do want to leave you on a light note today. We're talking about the cutest dog at TSA. All right, so there were dozens of dogs that were in this competition.
Okay.
To see which one was the cutest. I would like to be the judge.
Right. Yeah. How do you get that
right?
job? Yeah.
I love the job that we do here.
Yeah.
So grateful to be able to sit in this chair, no doubt about it. But my goodness, I would have loved to be a judge for that. So I'll tell you now, the name is Bolts. It's a 3-year-old German short hair pointer from the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport.
It's always the most frustrating thing. Oftentimes, whenever Iris and I are traveling together, inevitably we'll end up seeing one of the TSA dogs, and she knows me well enough to know I don't even have to say anything. I don't have to make a move. She immediately just goes, "Can't pet it." And I get it. I know it. They've got the vest on, and they've got a job to do, and they're a part of a really amazing group of hardworking men and women. They're doing a lot of work out there. But Iris always goes, "Don't pet it. Don't pet it." She just knows. She just knows.
These dogs have such a serious job, of course, and so thankful for the job that they do. But my gosh, I'm glad that we can just give them a little bit of love because, like you said, we don't normally get to give them this kind of love and attention. So I'm glad that we can do that now.
Exactly right. It's an amazing thing. Hey, listen, thank you for jumping in. I know you got, the reason I wanted to really, ask what you would normally do at a moment like this in the middle of the day is because you taking the time out to come do this is stopping a lot of work that's happening out there, because I know you guys do a lot of work to get ready for the shows that are coming up in just under an hour. So we do appreciate you.
Glad to keep you guys up to date.
All right,
Thank
appreciate
you so
it.
much.
All right, guys, there she is, our big, beautiful city. We've got just under an hour left of the show, but still much more to come. Some very important topics we're going to be tackling. But for now, please don't go anywhere. Chicago Live rolls on. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Taking a live look at many things right now. A little piece of the skyline. You got some boats there on the lake, and you can tell that the traffic is just barely crawling along on DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And of course, you got Buckingham Fountain, which I'm trying to appreciate as much as I can before those colder months sneak up on us. And then it won't be too long, and next thing you know, they'll be turning that baby off. It is just after 3 o'clock here on Chicago Live, but we still got under an hour left of the show and some really important guests coming up that you're going to want to hear about. So we're going to be talking about the fact that a confirmed measles case in Kane County has prompted health officials to identify 2 potential exposure sites, Canelan High School in Maple Park on August 18th and a pediatric clinic in South Elgin on August 21st. We're going to bring in Dr. Aishwarya Bhaskar to talk a little bit about that. First of all, Doctor, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate you. Doctor, for someone who maybe was either at Canelan High School or South Elgin Clinic during sort of those exposure windows, what should they be doing right now?
So everybody should kind of know their exposure status and whether you're immunized or not. First of all, it's important not to panic. Talk to your doctor or health department right away. And if you've been exposed, then there's a really short window on where you can get the vaccine or a shot with the antibody that can still protect you. And it's never, never, ever too late to catch up on the MMR vaccine. So if you're unsure about your status, talk to your doctor and see if you've received the MMR vaccine. If you've been exposed and aren't protected, you need to act fast. So within at least 72 hours of exposure, you should be getting that vaccine to protect you from severe illness. And if you don't have an exposure, just make sure you're up to date on the vaccine. Children get 2 doses, first at 12 to 15 months, and then the second one from 4 to 6 years. And then just make sure the adults that are immunocompromised or for higher risk groups that you're always getting checked to make sure you got the vaccine or the protection that you need.
You know, Doctor, for those who were potentially exposed, you know, there's a good chance that they're going, listen, I feel fine. Yeah, maybe I was exposed, maybe I was in the area, but like, I'm good. I don't have to worry about it. Why is it important for those people to maybe even still be tested, even if they are feeling okay?
Yeah, so a lot of the times we may not know we have measles until the late manifestations, which is the rash. So you might just start feeling cough, cold, congestion, think it's a normal virus. But if you indeed have measles, it's really quickly contagious, and it can develop severe disease pretty fast as well. So just because you think that you were exposed but you're fine, it's still super important to contact your physician right away, as well as your local health department to get tested.
Doctor, for the actual test, what does the testing actually determine? Does it determine if you actually have the measles, or does it determine if you have immunity?
Yes, so there's 2 different types of tests. The tests we can run can test for if you have the true infection, but we can also test whether you have the immunity by testing the levels of antibodies you have against that measles virus. So it's kind of different, but it's super important to check on both, whether you've been exposed or not.
And how contagious is measles compared to sort of other respiratory illnesses? And is it still, you know, there's that idea of, well, if someone was in the room and left, it's still possible to get it. Can you sort of talk about that?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the scariest things about measles. It's one of the most contagious viruses we know. Again, it's not just a rash. It can cause pneumonia, brain swelling, encephalitis, and death. And the thing is, it's super preventable with just a vaccine. Usually, if you were exposed to someone with measles, there's up to a 90% chance that you'll actually catch the virus. And yes, the virus does linger in the air for about 2 hours. So, you know, if you're in that clinic, you're exposing all the people in that clinic and the people after you leave for at least 2 hours. So if one infected person can ideally spread it to 12 to 18 other people who aren't protected. So very, very contagious.
For someone that just doesn't know whether or not they received the MMR vaccine, is there a way, is there a database, is there a way for someone to easily find out?
So you can really just ask your physician for your up-to-date immunization record. And worst case scenario, if you truly can't find that record or you don't know, it's always okay to get that vaccine again, especially for those that are higher risk. There's no harm in getting that vaccine, whether you already received it or not.
For anyone who maybe hasn't had the vaccine but then finds themselves in the ballpark of a potential exposure, is it too late by that point?
No. So at least within 72 hours, if you get that vaccine within that specific window, you increase your chances of preventing severe illness at the time of exposure and at the time of illness, and also for future complications like that brain inflammation or the encephalitis you can get in the future. So super duper important. As soon as you find out that you're exposed, talk to your local health department as well as your physician for next steps.
Can we talk about maybe some of the most apparent symptoms that someone should be, if someone's concerned, if they found themselves in an area of exposure, some of the biggest symptoms that someone should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so biggest symptoms are cough, congestion, red eyes or red irritated itchy eyes and tearing, as well as the rash. So the rash doesn't actually come until a little bit later. So biggest things are if you have that classic pink rash that's widespread, along with high fevers, congestion, cough, you just want to let your pediatrician or your physician know.
Inevitably, there are always going to be people who say, I don't need the vaccine because measles is rare and it's not that big of a deal. And for someone who is listening right now saying, it's not for me, it's never going to happen, measles is a rare thing, what would you say to that?
I would say that's extremely untrue. Now we're kind of seeing these cases come back because of these people that are not getting vaccinated. So the 2 cases that were confirmed with measles were those that chose not to vaccinate against the measles, mumps, rubella virus. So at this time, more than any other time, it's super important to really look at all the important information regarding measles and how to prevent such a disease that's so highly contagious. It's, our job as a community to protect each other, and especially those that are very vulnerable. So as much as you can, read the right information. The MMR is very safe, and it's been proven over and over again that it's a very safe vaccine and can prevent severe disease about 97% of the time.
Obviously, Doctor, neither of us want to leave people freaked out about any of this, but, we do have the words in Kane County written below at the bottom of the screen. So for anyone watching who is in Kane County, who is worried hearing about this, is there a message of reassurance that you can give people so we're not leaving them potentially in a place of panic?
Yes, of course. So don't panic, right? So as much as you can, keep in touch with your local health department for all the up-to-date information, and then get in contact with your physician, get a checkup, ask questions. This is not a time to, get stressed or panic, but at the same time, just keep up to date. Make sure you're educated about everything and get vaccinated.
Dr. Bhaskar, we truly do appreciate your expertise. This is obviously a very important topic and one that we really wanted to keep people updated on. So we do appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Yes, no problem. Thanks.
Take care. All right, guys, our beautiful city, there she lies. Chicago Live has just about 45 minutes left to go. You have no idea the amazing topics that we have coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to tell you more about everything you need to know coming up right here on Chicago Live. But for now, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Beautiful day here in the city of Chicago. It is 3:18, but even though we only have just about 42 minutes left of the show before Fox 32 News at 4 kicks off, we still have much more left that we want to get to. Our next guest, this is a really fascinating topic because FDA officials have approved a new drug for pancreatic cancer that researchers are calling a breakthrough. So we want to bring in our next guest, Dr. Ajaz Khan. Dr. Khan, first of all, thank you for taking the time, sir. We do appreciate you.
Pleasure to be here, Jake.
So tell us a little bit about where this came from and the significance of this, because it feels huge.
Absolutely. So daraxonrasib was recently approved by the FDA as of today. We've been doing close to 30 to 35 years of research on this topic of pancreatic cancer. What we know is that 95 to 98% of patients with pancreatic cancer have this particular mutation. You could say it's a master switch to this particular cancer. And so we've been trying to find a way to turn that switch off and shut these cancers down. So this was the first drug approved, which we call as a RAS-on target, which means when that gene is active, this drug goes and binds to that area and shuts the cancer down by itself. The pivotal trial was presented June 1st here in Chicago at our international meeting. It showed, in comparison to chemotherapy, now these are all patients that had stage 4 pancreas cancer that had already received one line of chemotherapy. After receiving the drug, in comparison to chemotherapy, it doubled response and doubled the time of survival as well, just by one pill. So it's an incredible event in terms of research, innovation, and certainly gives us a new treatment for pancreatic cancer, which is a real breakthrough therapy.
Doctor, what does this approval mean maybe for patients who do have limited treatment options?
So it certainly brings to the table a brand new innovative therapy, which they no longer have to receive with an IV pole. It is not chemotherapy. It is a targeted treatment to their cancer, and it's a pill that they could take at home.
So for people who are hearing this and they're thinking, either I'm going to be, potentially receiving this, or a friend or a family member, what is our time frame looking at now that it is approved?
So that's still yet to be determined because the approval just came in today. Obviously, there's a distribution issue that will come into the question once that starts to get the pipeline moving. So far, we have offered the drug now either on clinical trial, and since June 1st, after the presentation at our international meeting, we started the EAP process, which is an expanded access program through the FDA. So it's so patients will be entered through the FDA portal, and they will get drug through the company by itself in terms of distribution. And so far, we've already enrolled 7 patients here in Chicago to receive the drug before the FDA approval. Obviously, as you know now, things have changed, and so we'll see what that brings moving forward.
How does this new drug sort of fit into existing treatment options for patients?
So the trial, the RASolute 302 trial, it was done for pancreatic cancer patients. Each of these patients had stage 4 pancreas cancer and had already received one line of chemotherapy. So essentially, these are the patients who would be eligible to receive daraxonrasib. And so we will see. So moving forward, I think these are patients that had one line of therapy, it stopped working, and now they need to look for another option of treatment, and this option now becomes available to them. Obviously, as we move forward, we'll see where this drug goes in terms of further development and hopefully into the first-line setting and then even earlier settings as well.
What are, in your opinion, some of the biggest unanswered questions that researchers still need to be studying?
So I think we still need to figure out how to treat pancreas cancer in earlier stages, earlier surveillance. Now that with the use of circulating tumor DNA, hopefully we can start to employ that in earlier stages of pancreas cancer. Unfortunately, as we still know, the 5-year survival of pancreas cancer today exists around 13%. So there's still quite a lot of work to be done, and certainly this is a hope moving us in the right direction.
You know, you mentioned that this drug sort of targets a protein that is found in several cancers. Could this approval eventually benefit, colorectal or lung cancer patients as well?
Yes, absolutely. So the existence of this particular mutation, the RAS mutation, does occur in up to 30% of colon cancers, and somewhere up to 15 to 20% of lung cancers, as we know. Although this is not approved for those patients as of yet, there are investigational trials currently looking at this particular molecule as well as others that also target along that pathway.
And doctor, obviously, there's, as you mentioned, there's still other unanswered questions, but whenever something like this happens, whenever this sort of major approval comes through, signifying this major breakthrough, it feels like we're taking one step closer to sort of that ultimate goal of being able to sort of eradicate, cancer. These steps, it has to feel monumental on your end in terms of the right direction that we're going.
Absolutely. As you said, each little step leads to a larger one and hopefully a monumental step moving forward. But I think this is one great step in terms of treating pancreas cancer, and hopefully will give us to a leap forward in terms of really curing this disease down the road. But I think we're certainly getting there slowly and slowly.
For someone for whom this is obviously an important topic and they're really looking for more information, is there a good source of information where they can stay updated on this drug and the other developments?
Yeah, so the websites that I always recommend for my patients to look at is the American Cancer Society and also the NCCN, which is the National Comprehensive Cancer Research Guidelines and Clinical Pathways. They can certainly look at that. There are patient-specific orientated documents there that they can look at, and certainly ask your oncologist and your local physician as well in terms of where the paths are for some of these treatments and innovative research things that we're doing as well.
Doctor, it's a very important topic, one that, as I mentioned, it's affects people every single day, and it's nice to be able to have these kinds of conversations and do these kind of stories and remind people that we're moving in the right direction and good things are being done. So we do appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. All right, guys, we have much more to come here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a live look out over our city. Beautiful afternoon, a beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in the city of Chicago. Much more to come here on Chicago Live. We've got just about a half hour left of the show, but still some important guests, including our own, the legend herself, Tia Ewing, is going to join us to talk about everything that she has going on. I always love whenever Tia joins us because, you know what? It means something amazing is going to happen. So we'll tell you more other things coming up here on Chicago Live. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
real.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Just about half hour left of the show before we kick in with Fox 32 News at 4 with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. So much more to come here on the show before we wrap things up. I am your host, Jake Hamilton. This is a topic that is impacting a lot of people. Not just here in Chicago, but really around the country. Mortgage rates climbing to 6.78% last week, the highest level in 3 weeks, really putting more pressure on an already weak housing demand. We are going to bring in Benjamin Cohen, who I had the chance to chat with briefly in the break. Benjamin, first of all, thank you for taking the time, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
Absolutely. So what is keeping a mortgage demand so weak? I feel like even as rates have sort of come down from their recent highs.
It's not that the demand is weak. There's still a ton of demand out there. There's just, there's several factors that go into it. I think one of the things that's important to understand is everybody hears a 6.75% interest rate and they think the sky is falling, right? Where I try to remind people, if you look at the history of what the last 25 years has been over a mortgage rate, the average is 7.25%. So everybody kind of got a little bit spoiled as it relates to what I call the artificial days where you're sitting on those 3% mortgages and you have sticker shock where now you're moving and you're buying a new home and the home prices are more expensive and the rates are double what they were. So the market is still, look, it's high relative to where it's been, but we've still been kind of hovering over the 6%, 6.5%, 6.75% range for quite some time now, prior to the war starting on February 28th. And all these dates ring a bell to me, right? A day like that where the war started and a mortgage rate was under 6%, and then they shot right back up within a couple days of when the war started. And that's due to, geopolitical stuff going on, the price of oil, government borrowing and the bonds, the 10-year yield, which is, as most people don't know, that's what rates are typically derived from. So you've got a lot of things. The Fed isn't really in aggressive cutting mode right now. They are, right now, they were talking about even a Fed rate hike. And now remember, a Fed rate hike is not a direct correlator to a mortgage rate, just like a Fed rate cut is not a direct correlator to mortgage rates going down. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world that dictates why things are the way they are at this current state of the union, if you will.
I got to ask you, is there a number that you're looking for? Is there a rate that you think is really going to start in a meaningful way bringing buyers back into the market in a way that's really going to make a significant difference?
Great question, Jake. It depends on the hour and the minute and the day you ask me that. When we almost hit 8%, as an example, a couple years ago, we just wanted to see things that start with a 7, right? We started with a 7. Then it's like, hey, now we want to see things that start with a 6. Now we see things that start with a 6, and psychologically, we want that number to start with a 5. You'd be shocked at the psychological mindset of a borrower when a rate is 5.99 or a rate is 6%. Virtually the exact same interest rate, but the psychology that goes into it is completely different.
I'd imagine that there is this feeling that the last thing you want to do is be the sucker that buys a house at a certain rate, and then next day you wake up and all of a sudden rates are super low and everyone's buying a house and they're giving them away for free and everyone's pointing at you going, I can't believe you bought it at this rate. What's wrong with you? Why would you do that? And does that ever come into play of this feeling of like, well, if I just wait, it'll go down a little bit more?
Great question. Talk about it all the time. I use this slogan, which I feel like people have stolen from me, that I came up with when rates started to go higher. Marry the house and date the mortgage, right? At the end of the day, what typically happens is you buy that house for $500,000 today and you paid 7.5%. Okay. I tell everybody, you can't refinance your purchase price. What do you mean, Ben? You can't refinance your purchase price? Well, that home today that you bought for $500,000 and you paid 7.5%, if rates drop to 6.5%, you can still refinance your mortgage and move on and reduce your payment, and reduce your rate, and everything's great. If you're one of those buyers that is sitting on the sideline waiting for rates to come down, well, guess what? We still have inventory issues out there. So when rates come down, it's not like all of a sudden there's going to be an influx of inventory that hits the market. When rates come down, that $500,000 house might now be $550,000 because now rates are down a point or a point and a half, and you have that many more buyers that enter the market because they feel better that rates are in a better position and their affordability factor increased a little bit. So, again, if you can't afford a home at 7%, now, Jake, this depends on the price point, right? Obviously, the bigger the home, the bigger the loan, the more the rate has an impact on things. But for the most part, if you're looking at the average median home price here, the difference in a 0.5% swing in rates is $50, $100 a month. And if that's going to swing your needle, quite honestly, then you're probably spending too much money on a home. So again, it boils down to what they feel psychologically and emotionally versus really what it economically means to them on a monthly basis.
That's such a great point because, when we're talking about sort of these decimals, when we're talking about these fractions of a percent, on a yearly basis, how, and obviously I know it's dependent upon the house itself and everything, but
yes,
how much you brought up a good point. How much are we actually talking about?
Well, so let's say you buy a $500,000 home as an example, okay? And let's just say you put the standard 20% down on a $400,000 mortgage. To put it in context, today, that payment would be $2,600 a month.
I love that you have the calculator on standby ready to go. That's fantastic.
It's usually glued to my palm, quite honestly. So if that rate goes, so remember that number, $2,600 a month. If that rate goes to 6%, as an example, now you're at $2,400 a month. So you're talking about $200 difference a month in payment. Every dollar counts to everybody these days, whether you're buying groceries, you're filling up your gas tank, you're buying a home, all of that stuff. But if $200 a month is going to impact your ability to buy a home or not buy a home, then I tell everybody, with all due respect, you're probably spending too much money on a home, or you need to think about putting a little bit more money down. A lot of people are qualified to spend more than they're comfortable spending, which is a wonderful position to be in as a buyer.
You brought up a great point, or that I really wanted to ask you about, and I'm so glad you brought it up, which is housing inventory. And that feels like this whole other, the buyers are right now, we're all so focused on sort of the rate. But if the houses aren't there, I feel like that's going to just keep the prices up. So best case scenario is what? A lower rate on a more expensive house?
Exactly. You're going to pay for it one way or the other. You're going to buy a house at $500,000 at 7%, or now all of a sudden rates go to 6%, and now all of a sudden, guess what? There's just more demand, right? I don't have my degree in economics, but one thing I do is understand the supply and demand. If rates come down, psychologically, that's going to put more buyers into the market, and now you're going to have more competition when you're trying to buy that house. So maybe 1 or 2 people wanted to buy that home at 7%, and now all of a sudden 5 to 10 people want to buy that home if rates are at 6%, and you end up getting into a bidding war. And now all of a sudden, when it comes to what you're paying for a house, people don't care that they just paid $50,000 more for a home, but they're so focused on the interest rate, if that makes sense. You're paying for it one way or the other.
But how do we fix, if the houses aren't there, they're not there. You can't, I want to say you can't magically make, yes, you can build a house, but you can't just make houses just pop up like that. So what is the solution to the inventory problem?
Well, you've got all this stuff going on in D.C. about portable mortgages and not portable mortgages, and can I move my mortgage from one home to the other? I think that is really difficult. And I don't have a seat at the White House, and I don't have a seat.
Not with that attitude, man.
You know, at the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult for these mortgages to be ported because each loan needs to stand on its own leg. So, you know, you've got Trump trying to pass laws that say if you're an investor, you're going to be capped at owning a certain number of homes because they don't want all these investors coming in and gobbling up all these homes. They want everybody to kind of just have access to more inventory. So, you know, listen, I don't have a perfect answer to your question. How are we going to get more homes? They need, you know, there's a big push to build homes, right? We need more inventory, and a lot of that's going to happen from new construction. And you're seeing a lot of new construction pop up all over the place, whether they're new constructions for apartment buildings that are just rentals, or they're new construction condos or single family homes. You know, the inventory problem is a real problem. And I wish I had a solution, or I wish I had a better answer for you that helps, like, how do we fix the inventory problem? You know, I don't know the answer to that question, unfortunately. I would assume, yeah.
I was going to say, I sometimes not having the answer is the answer. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You would assume what?
I would just assume you would think that lower rates would then help people kind of say, okay, I'm willing to give up my 3 or 4% mortgage and move to the other home. And I would tell you that most people are okay with that. You know, when I've got you calling me as an example, Jake, and you're like, hey, Ben, I've got this condo. I live in Chicago. I'm sitting on one of these 3% mortgage rates. And yeah, I can afford a new one and it's all great. And I'd say, oh, I hate to give up that mortgage rate. Well, part of what's happening with the inventory problem is you've got people that own a home at 3%. Yeah. Rents are really high. So that borrower saying, you know what, if I can afford to qualify for the new house without selling the existing home, I'm just going to keep it and rent my house because I'm going to make a lot of money renting that house because my monthly costs are so low. So that's also contributing to the inventory problem is you've got buyers that are complaining to me on one end, Ben, there's no homes for sale. And then I throw it right back at you, Jake, and say, hey, Jake, with all due respect, you're part of the problem. You don't want to sell your current home right now because you want to rent it and make a lot of money on it per month. So sell your house. That'll give more inventory. And then you won't be complaining when you turn into a buyer that there's a lack of inventory. So that's part of the issue as well, is you've got people that are just turning their current primary residence into an investment property because their carrying costs are so low.
I would like to clarify that your example was a hypothetical situation. I promise to our viewers, I'm not sitting on several multi-million-dollar properties at a 3% interest rate. I can assure you that is not the case. Listen, I know you don't have a crystal ball, and we're not going to hold you to this, but because you do have sort of your finger on the pulse of what's happening, in this world, do you expect things to stay in the ballpark of 6.5%, 7%?
Every day I would answer that question different, Jake. Okay. Every day I think when the bond market rallies and we've got some, news or some headline or something that makes a shift in the market, just kind of like where we were prior to the war. I'm like, wow, we're under 6%. That's amazing. Things are humming. Activity was spiking. Refinances were happening. Purchases were happening. So, it's really difficult because, again, every tweet, every headline, everything that the Fed says or doesn't say, we don't know. I would think what's realistic is inflation remains persistent, right? And if inflation remains persistent, the Treasury market is going to stay where it is, and you're going to see rates stay in that current range. If inflation cools down and bonds start to decline, I would assume you'd start to see rates go in the lower sixes. I think really if you want to start to see mortgages with a 5 handle, meaning they're starting with a 5 on them, you need to see significant disinflation. You probably need to see that war come to an end in some fashion, because hopefully that will drive down inflation, that will drive down the cost of oil. Oil is a big thing right now. Nobody loves going to the gas pump either these days, paying, we're almost $6 a gallon on a gas tank of gas, depending on what type of gas you put and what type of car you drive, right? So, I don't know. Every day I think I have it figured out, Jake, and then I get a headline or a tweet that makes me think something different. I think you need to, I tell every buyer right now, when you're buying a home, the last thing you want to do is buy a home at a 6.75% interest rate and then bank that you're going to refinance that mortgage in 12 months to a 6% rate. If it happens, amazing, and we'll be there and we'll be ready to do it. But you can't go into a home banking that you are counting on a refinance, because it might happen for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. We don't know.
Listen, if things were always the same, then we wouldn't have the excuse to keep bringing you back on the show to talk about this, my friend.
Great.
All right.
I hope that helps and that's some good information for you guys.
It's always great information whenever we get to talk. It's a big, giant, loud, complicated issue, and I appreciate an expert such as yourself being able to kind of break it down for us. And again, I also do appreciate the occasional moment where someone just says, I don't know. I don't have the answer to this thing. And I feel like sometimes that's the best and most honest answer you can give. Hey, Ben Cohen, we always appreciate you taking a couple of minutes out of your day to talk with us. It's an important topic, and truly, we really do appreciate your time.
My pleasure, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, guys, there it is, a live look at our city. We have much more to come here on Chicago Live. You don't want to go anywhere. We're going to tell you everything you need to know as we just easily slide right in. You don't have to change the channel at all, because we are about to slide right into Fox 32 News at 4 with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. Much more to come, but you don't want to miss it, so just stay right here. Chicago Live will be right back.
Listen.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. We have a lot going on before we get into Fox 32 News at 4. We are actually going to take you live to Benton County, Ohio right now, where a father and mother are both charged with 19 counts of child endangerment. They are the parents of 16 kids and are being charged with forcing them to live in deplorable conditions. Let's listen in.
That are still there since you were employed there, right? Correct. I want to talk to this issue about clothing and the inconsistency, because it is an inconsistency about whether Mr. Foster changed his pants in the back of an Uber. Okay. So part of your duty in this evaluation is to kind of put reality to the side, but put yourself look at things through the lens of Mr. Foster, correct?
That's part of what I have to do, yes.
Okay. And understanding that, would that change your conclusion in this case that Mr. Foster did not have knowledge of the wrongfulness of his conduct?
No, that's the point I'm trying to make, is I'm willing to entertain both hypotheses, that he did change his clothes in the Uber or that he didn't change his clothes in the Uber. I don't think it changes the analysis of whether he knew the wrongfulness. Because the implication is, well, if he changed his clothes, maybe he was trying to, avoid identification, avoid detection, but the data as a whole doesn't really support that hypothesis.
In those clothes, when you reviewed the arrest records, you reviewed records relating to what was found at Mr. Foster's residence when he was arrested, correct?
Correct.
Was his clothing found there?
They were.
Was the clothing that Mr. McCoy mentioned to you on his cross-examination found at his residence?
That's my understanding, yes.
Was it in the trash can?
No.
Was it in the garbage disposal?
No.
Was it in some place where it indicated to you that someone was trying to destroy or conceal evidence?
No.
Out in the open?
Correct.
And again, when you're doing this evaluation, and this is why I asked you to explain this delusional framework, because for people like me that aren't psychologists, it's really hard to divorce reality from delusion. So, are you taking everything that Mr. Foster tells you as true?
No, of course not.
Okay, so how do you, as a psychologist, and you're preparing these type of reports, whether it's a competency report or a sanity report, how do you reconcile the two, and how do you still render a valid and reliable opinion about someone's mental state, understanding that what they might be telling you might be total nonsense?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's about convergence of data. And when I teach on this, I say, it's kind of like lawyer work, I think. The ones who are the best are the ones who put in the work. And so if you're willing to get all the records, review them, actually spend the time digesting them, you're willing to kind of do a lengthy interview when it's needed, sort everything out, and look at convergence of evidence, those are the ones that tend to rise to the top as, okay, I understand where they came from.
You are currently listening in Vinton County, Ohio right now, where four adults are facing dozens of child endangerment charges after authorities found 16 children living in what investigators described as unsafe and deplorable conditions inside of a home. A grand jury has now indicted the children's parents along with the father's parents on felony and misdemeanor charges. The parents also face separate allegations involving sexual conduct with a minor. Now, all four defendants have pleaded not guilty and are undergoing contemporary evaluations. So we're going to continue to listen in.
Stinson, that night in Bruce Foster's mind, February 4th, 2025, was different than any other day in his life, correct?
Of course.
That's a date where he thought it was the end, correct?
That's correct.
He had to kill, I'm leaving you. Is it your opinion, based on based on what Mr. Foster told you, that he had to kill or be killed?
That's exactly correct.
So calling his Uber early isn't out of the ordinary, understanding his delusional framework that tonight's the night that he might die.
It was out of the ordinary for his behavior, but in the context of his delusions, it makes perfect sense. He had to get out of there early. He was fixing to be killed, and he had to kill them and get out of there before he was dead.
So, Dr. Stinson, Mr. Foster's mom is potentially affiliated with this mafia group. Is that your testimony?
I don't believe she is. That was Mr. Foster's belief, was that she was a member of the mafia group and his dad was an affiliated friend of members of the group.
Okay, but she's still alive today.
Correct.
So, was he not imminently at risk of being harmed by her at that time? Is that your opinion?
That's my understanding. His perception was that he wasn't imminently at risk of being harmed at that moment. There are a number of people that he believes are affiliated with the mafia group. And as I said, he went to great lengths to try not to kill them and saw it as a last resort that he was only justified in doing when he believed it was so imminent that he had to kill them or be killed himself.
He didn't kill the people at Chipotle, did he?
He did not.
Even though they used his marketing idea, and even though they made millions off of his marketing idea that was played in the NBA Finals?
Correct.
Mr. McCoy made a great reference that you didn't ask more about why he thought he was going to be hung, why Mr. Foster thought he was going to be hung at work at KDC. But you reviewed records as part of your job in doing this case, right?
I did.
I think the first several pages of your report contains a summary of every record that you reviewed, right?
That's correct.
And so you rely on the validity of those records, especially if they're coming from an institution like COVH, which you previously worked for, correct?
That's correct.
Did you have for any reason to question Dr. Smith's report or psychiatrist's report from COVH that referenced Mr. Foster being in fear of being hung at work?
No, I did not have any reason to question. In fact, it was very consistent with what I had heard up to that point.
Address a question Mr. McCoy asked you about adrenaline because Mr. Foster looked wide-eyed. Do you recall that?
I do.
And you recall reading about that in the records, right?
Yes.
That he had like an impulse to use force or an impulse to kill someone, correct?
Correct.
And that the actions here are grisly, correct?
Sure.
So, could he be wide-eyed because of adrenaline?
He could.
Could he be wide-eyed because he's psychotic?
He could.
Is there good evidence that he's psychotic?
Yes.
Is there a track record, years worth of evidence that he's psychotic?
Correct, yes.
Is there prior diagnoses pre-existing this case that he had not only been pink slipped twice, but also diagnosed with severe mental diseases?
Yes.
Schizophrenia?
Yes.
Bipolar disorder?
Yes.
And I want to go back to Chipotle too. There's some conflict in how Mr. Foster's employment relationship ended there, whether he was fired or whether he resigned. Did that change your opinion on anything that you reached here today?
No, as I was trying to articulate, what's most important is not what officially happened, but his perception. His perception was that he had been wrongfully terminated by a member of the mafia who was a niece of the president, and they were trying to steal his money and cheat him out of money he had earned by coming up with great marketing ideas for them. So it's his perception that matters.
Okay. And you considered his perception?
I did.
I want to talk to you about differences, inconsistencies between Mr. Foster's account during your competency interview and his sanity interview. And I recall that we talked about this for the reader's sake of your evaluation in normal caps.
You've been listening in to a trial out of Benton County, Ohio. We've got just a couple of minutes before Fox 32 News at 4 kicks off. You're not going to want to miss that. But for now, we got to roll to break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Beautiful day here in the city of Chicago. Skies are blue, a couple of clouds in the sky. You see even a boat down there making its way across the lake. It's been a busy day here in the newsroom. We have a lot of things that we're going to be keeping you updated on as we kick off with Fox 32 News at 4 o'clock with Terrence Lee and Anita Blanton. But Chicago Live will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock with the latest headlines and the time to actually have the kinds of conversations that a lot of news shows don't have the time for. We do here on Chicago Live. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Fox 32 News at 4 o'clock starts right now.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Rate hikes requested during outages? What NIPSCO's reason for